Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using code NEST. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Hello there, and welcome to the BNB Show. My name is Brandon Kane, and my cohort to the left here, that's Seahawks Brendan Nelson to you. Jumping back in the house here at the Nest, as we have a lot to discuss today. Trade deadline deals, the past prior game of nearly perfection, and then an upcoming matchup this week against the Arizona Cardinals, which probably got a little bit tougher due to the change at the quarterback position that they've undertaken. Brendan, how's it going, man? How are we feeling?
Better than last week, that's for sure. You can't ask for much more than what you got over the last week of time.
Indeed, pretty exciting stuff, and with the team already rolling and then adding on top of it, you feel the national praise there. And let's start off with this trade. I'd love to get your thoughts on it coming out the gate of this, because it is one that seems to be universally, both locally and nationally, looked at as a home run kind of deal for this Rasheed Shaheed wide receiver that we've gotten from the New Orleans Saints for a 4th and 5th round pick. What is your thoughts on this trade, where you stand? Are you in alignment with kind of the masses on this one, or do you go a little bit of a different direction?
I think I'm pretty much in alignment with the masses here. I think this is a good trade. I think that there was, and I know we talked about this a little bit last week, and we didn't necessarily completely agree with the conclusion, but I did feel like even though the offense was playing very well and getting the job done, there was an issue that was going to become a problem at some point during this year, where even though we were scoring, even though we were very efficient and very effective passing, opposing defenses didn't really fear this offense the way that you would have expected them to. And while that does present things that you can take advantage of, I think it also does present a problem that a better defense is going to be able to take advantage of. We've spent time talking about the stacked boxes. We've spent time talking about the fact that these opposing defenses just aren't treating JSN like they would a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson. And we talked about how they didn't seem to fear guys like Cooper Kupp or Torrey Horton at all. Not that those guys are unproductive, but there isn't that fear factor with those guys. So you went and got somebody who is going to, I think, pretty definitively knock these opposing teams out of the stacked boxes. And I think that's really important. I understand that we were taking advantage of the stacked boxes, but I do think there's going to come a point in time where we need a more efficient running game, a more effective running game. And I think Shaheed kind of unlocks that, because you can't single cover Shaheed with a corner. You have to have somebody over the top, or else he's just going to kill you over and over and over again. So I think that the addition of Shaheed, yeah, he's going to make catches. He's going to make plays. He's going to do good stuff for this offense, straightforward. But the most important thing, I think, is he is going to transform this running game with his presence on the field. And I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, you have to feel like he's going to force these defenses to have to be a bit more honest than they have been, to your point, up until this point. And even if he just brings that one skill set, which he brings more, he's a decent receiver all the way around. But even just bringing that receiver could help and aid out this offense tremendously. I think you're right about where we're at with the receiver core. I'm not as worried about it if we have everybody at full health, to be honest with you. I think you're probably a little bit more, and we need more on top of that. But it was more of that, hey, the health's starting to falter a little bit. Cooper Kupp, we don't know the severity of the injury. We don't know the severity of the injury on Tariq Young, and you got Bobo going down. You don't have the depth. We can speak about, the star power at the front, but you certainly just didn't even have necessarily the depth to sustain then if you had, God forbid, one more, major injury to like a JSN or whatnot. This receiving core looks completely different at that point, with those other injuries mounting. So I can get it. I think, to Brendan, some of this was just that this is the availability of what you could go grab. Everybody out there, a lot of Hawk fans out there were kind of, I think, lamenting that we didn't go get an offensive lineman. But I don't think you or I wanted Trevor Penning. And we haven't liked him, by the way, folks. Neither me or Brendan have liked Trevor Penning since we scouted him in the draft. I remember that about you on that. You were not a big Penning guy. And we were both, when there was rumors the Hawks were going to draft him, we were worried.
Yeah, I don't know about him as a guard. Maybe that's a little bit different, but I remember looking at him as a left tackle, and it felt like a Pete Carroll pick. I remember that's the reason why I was concerned. It felt like a Pete Carroll guy, but I didn't think he had very good prospects in the pros.
And he's the only one that goes, which to me, along with the very few amount, really overall, of trades that we saw from the trade deadline. I mean, we had a collection of a couple, but it was not a tremendous amount. Like there's a lot of teams going for it. Felt like it was a seller's market. Felt like there wasn't a lot of available players. Two things that we had said kind of coming into this, but that makes it okay with me that you didn't go and find an offensive lineman because there just probably wasn't one to go get.
Yeah, the trade deadline, it's not like the buffet at rush hour. They're not bringing out endless trays of food. It's closing time. They close the kitchen. What they have out there is all you can pick from. So you might not be able to address your team's needs directly. You might need to find a little bit of an unconventional or indirect way to make your team better. And, that's why you take care of this stuff in the off season, not at the trade deadline.
That's absolutely right. Some people are also a little worried about the fact that this is a potential rental with a 4th and 5th round pick, considering what we know about this upcoming draft. I personally have no issues with if it does become a rental. You're in the same place on that one?
Yeah, and I personally don't think that it will be. I think that it's more likely than not we keep him around. I think that this is the kind of complimentary receiver you want when you have somebody like a JSN who's going to be into a $40 million contract sooner rather than later. I think that Shaheed is the kind of guy that you kind of want across from him. Somebody who's not going to command a ridiculous amount of money, but is going to add a dimension to the offense that JSN doesn't. And I know JSN's been a great downfield threat so far this year, but he certainly doesn't have the Rasheed Shaheed speed deep down the field, I would say. Very few people do.
Yeah, he's a guy that's legitimately one of your faster receivers, I would say, in the sport. Just on a field with pads on him, he's as fast as you're going to get at the sport. And you're right, that's something that you just don't have. I think too, it's very easy here just to move the Kupp deal over to Rasheed Shaheed after this year, where essentially you're getting out from under Kupp's deal. You eat a little bit of dead money, but then you just move maybe that money over to Shaheed. Very easy way for them to do that. Though they've got a lot of money, and they can keep Kupp and potentially sign Shaheed and just call it a day too. I don't think he's going to command a $20 million a year contract, but something like 13 or something.
Yeah, I think 12 or 13 is the number. Like you look at what Tutu Atwell got, and then you add a little bit because of the special team stuff. And I mean, the Rams overpaid for like hell for Tutu, of course. So I think we all understand that. But something like that. But if it is a rental, obviously that's not as good. Some people are talking about the comp pick that we would get for him. I don't know if we would get a comp pick for him because we have so much money to spend in free agency this year. But that's possible. We might get a comp pick for him. So that would help mitigate that. And I think the elephant in the room here, and it's not really something that people are ignoring. People have been talking about it a lot the last few days. This draft class doesn't really look that good. This does not look like a strong draft class. This looks like, I think the 2021, no, it was the 2020, no, it was the 2022 draft class was kind of looked at as being a little bit weaker. It's going to be kind of like that, I think. For one,
07 Aaron Curry vibes draft.
Yeah, a little bit of that. There are going to be good players, of course, don't get me wrong. But I do think that John Schneider was moving under the knowledge and the assumption that this was not really a draft class to covet your picks at. And I think most of us have probably heard by now the rumors that we were very close on a Max Crosby trade. Have you heard this?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that he even was thinking like even a first round pick is not covetable the way that it would be in a normal draft, especially with us likely picking very late. I think that he is looking at things like that. The initial reaction when we traded for Shaheed was this should only cost like a 6th round pick. But I don't think that's true in a class like this. I think he's probably worth about what we gave up to get him. And there was initial like sticker shock. He did cost more than I think people expected, but I think the fact that this draft class is not good is a not very well kept secret at this point. I think everybody knows, and I think that is impacting these decisions.
Yeah, I do agree as well. I think that what we had heard was that there was going to be the Saints were looking for a third round pick in return for Shaheed. And so you found a creative way to get him what they were reportedly wanting. But that's if they're already asking on the surface of a third round pick, you ain't landing on a sixth round pick as a middle ground place. So fourth and fifth was more, I think, in the right spot of things. And there was other teams that came out of it, like the Buffalo Bills, who wanted a wide receiver in this trade deadline process. The Rams were supposedly maybe in on Shaheed. We might have perhaps even beat their offer that they had on the table, and that ours was looked at as a little bit better. So I've got no issues with the conversation. Day 3 picks. The other part, the last part in this is just that we've got a roster well built up. Yeah, there's some free agents this offseason. We're going to lose an after recount, but overall, the core of the stock is here, and you're too deep at a lot of different positions, even beyond just having the starter there, where you've got some reinforcement. I think that you do get to the place on this, Brendan, where when you get to start to build the team to this stage of things, the draft pick side of it starts to become, yes, important, but not having every last little draft pick. I keep going in my head to two guys, Chris Harper and Amara Darboh, 2 fourth-rounders at one point in time that you had to cut, who never even stepped on the football field because you had too much of a numbers game facing them in order to get that done.
Yeah, and I think there was another guy too who was like maybe even a third-round pick who didn't make the team. I can't remember his name, but there have been a few of those. There have been a few. And part of that was a reflection that it was a bad pick, but it was also a reflection of how good you were. I remember, we had a running back that we drafted in, I want to say 2012 or 2013, that went on to be a really good Chief. Maybe his name was like Spencer Ware.
Yeah, Spencer Ware, that's right.
Yeah, we drafted him. He couldn't make the team, and then he went to the Chiefs and was good.
Yeah.
And he was a good player, and we knew it, but we didn't have room for him. And, I was thinking about it this morning. What are the likely areas of need for the Seahawks going into this offseason? You've got, I'd say, running back, because I think Walker's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right guard, because I don't think there's anything on this team that's going to save us. No, I'm not believing that Christian Haynes is going to come in and save us.
Right.
Edge rusher, because I think Mafe and Nwosu are gone.
Okay. I'm not so sure about Nwosu, but I'm with you on the Mafe. Still needed one. Even if Mafe leaves, you're still going to need one.
Yeah, and I'd say corner, because Woolen and Job are both free agents.
And then probably strong safety, maybe.
Yeah. Possibly safety, depending on how you feel about Eamon Worry being a full-time safety. Possibly center. I kind of feel like this team is going to kick the can down the road on Sundle, because he's not that bad. And I also think they think he's a great scheme fit, especially next to Zabel. And I think they think that that's valuable. Possibly linebacker. It depends on how you feel about Drake Thomas and Tyrese Knight. Possibly nose tackle, although I'm starting to feel like this team is comfortable with the way they're doing things right now on the defensive line. Like, it's not that much. And then you have to remember, we have money to spend in free agency. We can address some of these needs in free agency. Like, a lot of people are talking about trading for Kevin Zeitler. He's going to be a free agent this offseason. If he decides not to retire, maybe you throw him a 1-year deal and you're set at right guard for the season, at least. He's still really good. You're talking about linebacker. There are going to be linebackers out there for cheap that are going to be perfectly playable. Like, you're not going to have that much that you need when the 2026 draft rolls around, as long as you do things, intelligently, as long as you're not just throwing money at guys that don't move the needle like you have in some recent off seasons. I mean, it's not unheard of, but it shouldn't be an off season where you need to throw a ridiculous amount of resources at stuff.
No, it shouldn't. And to your number, I counted on a soft number. There are 5 to 6 positions that you're needing to address, essentially, and not all just starters, but just 6 places, which still very well can get that done with the picks you have and the money you got to spend. So it's just a thing to consider on this week draft, roster stacked. I think your point about those guys that got released is a good one, in the respect of those guys you released weren't because they were necessarily bad players. Amara Darboh never really found a home, and Harper didn't do a lot, but it was as much driven by the fact that you had the guys in the roster that were better and that they won out at the end of the day. And competition was more king at that time. It wasn't about the draft pick side of it. So I don't like throwing draft picks to the wind because you got too many and you don't have enough roster spots. I'm okay with taking this approach to it, where you're a little more proactive and get out in front of it. And especially for day 3 picks that don't tend to do a whole hell of a lot. You get occasionally a Torrey Horton in there, but a lot of times, a lot of day 3 picks will give you a whole lot of nothing. So completely fine with it. Completely fine with it. Well,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Real quick though, I do want to ask you, what did you think of the Crosby stuff? Because I think it's been more or less confirmed, or as confirmed as it's going to get. that it was real, that we really went for it and got close, but the Raiders couldn't quite get there. Like, what do you make of that?
I think the thing that stands out in my mind is that sometimes we have conversations where we will have people in our chat come after us for saying, well, that's just a crazy thought, that there's no point of that ever happening. Why would you even mention that? And when it comes to the Crosby thing, this has happened a lot with me on us, and at least me in particular, and looking at my chat on this. And I did come away with it going, there's so many of these 12s out there sometimes when we're bringing up certain stuff that I think that we're just pulling pie in the sky like things out, that somehow we're just ripping something from our butt on it and like, well, maybe this. We've actually given it a lot of thought. There's actually some reasoning as to why we're thinking it. And then situations like this prove out to why we talked about it so much, is because it was there on the table. It was there as a possibility. Now, what caused the deal not to get done? I don't know, but it is confirmation for why we talk, Brendan, about these kind of moves and deals, because they are real, because John is willing to be aggressive like this. And I think that they're very likely to go back and double back around to him here this offseason, where the Raiders are probably thinking they can get exactly what they were, or if not a little bit more, into next offseason than what they could get right now, that maybe there'd be more teams in the mix to trying to trade for him at that point. But that's as much of what it confirms to me. Is I've been down the road a couple times with these kind of players where we definitely were in on, and people were like, no way. There's just, and we got a lot in the fan base sometimes to get reactionary on this stuff, wanting to just sort of kick it out the back end of things. And it's like, no, give it consideration, talk about it. It's a real possibility.
Right. I was, by the way, I remember, like, it felt like 20 years ago, it was impossible to trade big contracts in the NFL. Something must have changed big in the background here, to where, like, we saw it with the Sauce Gardner, to a lesser extent Quinnen Williams. These contracts have really changed, where you can just trade anybody now, and it's not really that devastating. I love it. I like it. It makes the trade stuff way more interesting. Like, is it just the bonuses are getting brought down significantly? Like, what's going on?
It's the option bonus aspect of it and guarantees. So, for instance, on the Max Crosby deal, he signed a new contract extension. And if you had looked at a guy of his caliber over the last 10 years, to your point, signing a new contract extension, it would always come with bonus money. So you're always going to get an increase of that new bonus money. And it's the bonus money that makes these contracts non-movable. It's not the base salary. It's not option bonuses. It's not the void years on the deal. It's literally just the bonus. So now what's become a new modern standard here is that players are like, well, as long as I got the money guaranteed, does it really matter when I get it? I'd love to have it in hand. But if I can get more money in the deal, more guaranteed money in the deal, by having to just wait a little bit of time to get that guaranteed money, I'll do that. And then what it allows the teams to do is option bonuses don't count like bonus money counts. They count when they come due on the books. That's when that hits. And so you're able then to move a deal where the guy still got his guaranteed money, but yet you as a team can still move the contract without having to sustain as much dead money as you would have 5 to 10 years ago with these type of deals, Brendan, to your point. But the Max Crosby was really one because he only went guaranteed money. The next 2 years, I think of his contract might have been guaranteed or something like that. No new bonus money. So when it does come to this offseason with him, it's going to be interesting as well. And the Raiders might have a point on this, where they were only going to eat about $10 million if they moved him right now. They only eat $5 million in dead money to move him this offseason. So maybe from their perspective, they're going, hey, you're getting Max on this deal, and you're going to give us all the goods to go get him at that point. And part of why I do think, whether it's Max or a Myles Garrett type, I think Seattle's going to try to get a really upper end dynamic pass rusher in here this offseason, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would like one. I know this pass rush is fine. I know they're doing good. I don't have an issue with the pass rush right now, but it's really hard to get those super duper blue chipper pass rushers. I would love to find a way to get one. And while I do like this crop of edge rushers in the draft, I don't think you're going to get that guy at pick 27, 28, 29, wherever it ends up. Like, you're not going to get that guy, at least not as a rookie this year.
Honestly, I don't even if it was a matter of we could go trade up for a guy that was a guy like you're talking about, I don't think that I would want to do that, because what we are seeing is more of that hard rule of thumb being put into play, being that edge rushers coming out of the draft in year one are not ready to be the impactful player that they're going to be maybe 2 to 3 to 4 years down the line. It just takes time. Look at this draft, Brendan, of the last draft with all the edge rushers who came out in this draft. You know, who's leading the league right now in rookies as far as for sacks go? Out of all these edge rushers they're taking, with the multiple guys going to Atlanta, and then you got Carter going out there to the Giants. 3 sacks. 61st in the NFL in sacks right now is Walker with Atlanta Falcons, and he's number 1 right now. And that was a high-end pick, taked up high draft. So, you go draft these guys, and maybe down the line they're going to be in that place. But we're looking in 2026 for this to be rocket fuel time. This is where we're ready to go now. We're ready as a team to really, truly be contenders, not wait on a pass rusher who we're hoping can be a prime part of the rotation in there. I would be much more in favor of trying to make that big move. And this is why I think Seattle's trying to make this move. They recognize, look, you bring in a Crosby and you have a Uchenna coming back and you have a DeMarcus Lawrence coming back and you have still the young Derek Hall kind of been developing into the last year of his deal. That's a nice little combination there. That's a nice little 4-man stack front there. And you feel even good about maybe Uchenna and DeMarcus being a little bit older because you're going to be able to control their snap count.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. I do like it. I think James Pierce is not even playing right now, really. The Falcons guy.
Not much.
He doesn't even really get on the field.
Yeah.
So you're right. I like Chop Robinson was a first-round pick. He still doesn't play that much for a really bad Miami team. So you're right. You're right.
Both the Jets edge rushers that they were open to move in this trade deadline, Jermaine Johnson and the Will McDonald kid. I mean, two guys, again, that some productivity, but some still finding their way kind of feel to them as players.
So, yeah, it's something that I'm definitely interested in exploring. I'd be interested to know what the hang-up was with the Raiders. Maybe we didn't offer enough. Maybe we just tried to get out of there with 2 firsts and they couldn't do it.
You're onto it.
Yeah.
I think you're 100% onto it. I think John making his peace with having to give up 3 first-round picks for a Garrett was just going to be too much for him to go too far there. That's just 3 years of first-round picks. I'm going to be out with this guy. And I think the Raiders were asking for something like that.
Question is, if let's say the Raiders end up going like 3-14 or 4-13 this year, does Crosby's value become less in the offseason? It feels like it probably would be a little bit.
It's part of why I hammered on the Raiders to do this deal now is that you get cute with this type of situation and you're like, no, but we'll get this over here on the other side, and so we can still have him play now, and then we'll get there. Maybe I've always said too, what happens if he gets an injury? Now your assets go way down from what you could have got right now, and it's part of why I think of all the teams in the trade deadline, Brendan, I don't have a problem with any of the teams and what they did. There's some teams that did some real smart stuff, like the Jets, in my opinion, of really hitting the reset button. But I feel like the Raiders were the dumbest team next to maybe like the Buffalo Bills as far as how they operated in this trade deadline and not really understanding what it is they're doing in Las Vegas right now. I don't get the plan. I don't see what you're doing. I don't see a vision at place. I see more of a Raider-like organization being ran in very much the same way it's been run previously. And that's disappointing.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. I will say I'm not a big fan of what Dallas did either. I'd say that was one where maybe you could have waited for the offseason to get Quinnen for less.
Yeah,
because he's not saving the team this year.
Jerry thinks, though, I think, Brennan, I think Jerry, you could feel it I don't know if you watched the Monday night game, but I could just like feel how much he wanted it in the booth when they went to shots of him, of just him, like they had Stephen A. Smith next to him at one point, and Stephen's like doing this kind of move as they're getting beat by the Cardinals. And so, that's Jerry for you, man. Bad ownership and a guy that can't see things clearly and talks himself into stuff. And I agree with you. I think that it's like, stay in the lane that you took already with Micah. You recognize this year wasn't the year to do this. You just lost the Cardinals at freaking home. The last place team in our freaking division took it to you, and not just beat you, but beat your ass at home. I don't know how you look at that and go, yeah, let's get a Quentin in here. Well, Quinn Williams will take a step over top. That's what we need. Ryan Clark, Quinn Williams. 1-2, 1-2. Like,
Yeah.
all right, we'll see.
Yeah, because I will say, like, on the surface, they actually did pretty decently well. They flipped some of the Micah assets into Quinn Williams. That's not bad. But I think you could have waited till the offseason and probably given up even less. Like, the Jets are going to be, 2-15 this year? Like, they're going to be I think they're going to be hot to trot to move pretty much everybody they have. And clearly they were. I mean, I don't know why they weren't willing to do Breece Hall for the 4th, honestly. Like, he's going to be gone in 10 games anyway.
That was so weird. Yeah.
And I don't know why Garrett Williams is untouchable if Sauce Gardner isn't, but I mean, they're committing to it. They're committing to it in a way that, what's another team that's committed to a rebuild this hard besides like the process Sixers? Like, it does not happen very often.
Not in the NFL, man. And it's something I've given a lot of hell to some of these teams, and that this is the problem with the NFL over and over again, is these teams just won't choose sometimes to make that right decision. And it's a hard sell to your fan base, but ultimately, if you can give them a vision, you can give them hope, and they will sign up for it. And this is the kind of moves that can give Jets fans hope. And they don't have a lot of hope right now as it stands, especially with how Woody's been talking in recent weeks at times, and some of the stories coming out of that organization. So I love what they've done here. I really do. And should have done more with the Breece Hall thing. But yeah, I think they've made a good move. I think your points are right about the Cowboys. And again, with the Cowboys, you're not winning jack squat this year. I don't care how hot you get. I don't care the addition of what Quinn Williams brings to that defense. You're not winning anything this year. You're not likely even getting the playoffs this year. So if that's the case, put this more to 2026 if that's really where you're trying to roll up on and get that going. But this is another team without a lot of vision, much like I talked about the Raiders, bad ownership, lack of vision. Those two things seem to go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, I like this new NFL where pretty much anybody can get traded. Like, I would assume the Packers probably can't trade Parsons. I assume that's relatively untradeable. But for the most part, everybody seems like, at least financially, they can be traded. And I love that. I think that's great for the sport.
I do too. I think also what you saw this year at the trade deadline was a lot of teams with cap space that we haven't seen in recent years. It seems like in 10-5, if I were to go about 10 years ago, it seems like if you got to the trade season deadline, you'd only have a handful of teams with like more than $10 million of cap space. And this year you had a plethora of them. So that also, I think, helped this out. Maybe the new norm, to your point. This is the new way of doing it. But yeah, flexibility. Team's not as worried about dead money, option bonuses that are put on these deals to make it so that you can move him, but the team player still gets his assurance. It's pretty good. I like it. Makes it more exciting.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's pivot here if we can. We got a couple donations. Let me hit these real quick. Talt on your side with a $2 donation. Thank you for that, Talt. Is nervous now since Kyler is sitting. Welcome. Oh, nervous now since Kyler's sitting. Welcome, number 22. Go Hawks.
I don't like the 22. He's got to go. He's got to go back. I think he should go back. Like his first couple years in the league, he had a different number. I can't remember what it was, but I think he should go back.
I'm kind of feeling the 11-22 combo, man. It feels numerologically sound, Brendan.
Yeah, that's Trey Brown's number. Nobody else can touch that number, man.
the legend Trey Brown. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll be talking a little bit more about it in the preview section here today, Talt. But yeah, I would have much preferred Kyler Murray, as I said this offseason. It was proven out in the first game, and Mike McDonald knows what to do with Kyler Murray. He's got a very good game plan in place. He knows how to button that guy up and give him a long day at the office. And Jacoby Brissett, as he showed last year against the Patriots, playing against Mike McDonald's defense, a little more comfortable, a little bit more able to move the ball. And so would have liked to have taken Kyler on again, but I understand why the Cardinals are making the move. It was time.
Yeah, should be able to rack up your sack numbers on Jacoby, though. That guy gets sacked a lot, it seems like. That guy's just kind of a sitting duck in the pocket. And yeah, Kyler was a lot of things that are bad, but he wasn't that, I would say.
Yep, he's definitely going to be a little bit more of that statuesque guy back there in Jacoby Brissett, and he's hard to bring to the ground because he's a bigger dude. He's got that, I call it the Roethlisberger-like body at times, where it's just big and kind of extra weight on him and just hard for guys to bring him down. But yeah, he does not move around much, so we should be able to get after him in that way, especially playing at home.
Yeah, he doesn't turn the ball over.
No, he doesn't. He's smart with the ball, and he knows what he's doing. He's one of those guys that's been in this league now for so many years. He's advanced himself along as a quarterback to where he can play very, very within the offense, and he can make the throws. He's got a good arm, what he brings to the table. So it's not gonna be an easy fight for us this upcoming week in that way. And Kyler would have been way better.
Yeah, I agree. We own Kyler, and some people were saying that it was good because one thing McDonald's defense struggles with is the more mobile quarterbacks. But I still would have rather had Kyler. I just. Like, he's such a bad fit with Harrison, and he's like the featured part of this offense. It seems it's almost untenable. Like, how can you win when your quarterback and your number one playmaker on offense are terrible fits for each other? It doesn't make any sense.
I'd offer Wilson into that too, because I think Wilson's cut from stylistically a lot of the same kind of cloth that Marvin is. Obviously not as talented, but another guy that's a little bit of an angular route runner that's going to be at his best on an on-time offense and creating that separation. And that's not Kyler's game for either of these two guys. So I think it's a mismatch for kind of both of them there. And Jacoby's worked both of those guys better since he's come in there, and just as part of what makes it harder in kind of dealing with him versus Kyler. You know what to do with him. Talt, thank you for the $2 donation. He asked, do you think the Cooper Kupp injury is more serious?
Well, I think that if it was more serious, he'd be on IR by now. I think that we probably would have seen that. But I do think that a soft tissue injury on a player that old who has had that many issues staying healthy in his career is something that you have to be aware can get more serious as time goes by. He can come back and it can happen again. So I think we all knew we were kind of making this deal with Cooper Kupp when we brought him in, that he might only You would be lucky if you got 13 games. You would be satisfied if he gave you 11. And you hope he's there for you when you need him in the postseason. That's, I think, the deal that you make when you sign a guy like Kupp, and that's fine. But I don't think the injury right now is serious, but you should take everything seriously with a guy like Kupp.
Agree with Brendan on this one, Tolt. I think that it's probably not just a bounce right back off an injury, but I think they're being very careful. I think some of this is the plan to try to have him at his best when you need him most. He is more of a slot guy versus Rasheed, so I don't know if that was really as much about. It's more about just adding on the receiver core to me and just lengthening it a bit. But I don't think it's super serious. Just one that they're going to be so ultimately very careful with.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No. I was just saying I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Dylan Sosa, thank you for the $5 donation, Dylan. Yes. Do y'all think Rasheed and JSN will be better than him and Olave, since JSN is a better version of Olave? I mean, you basically have to pick your poison.
I feel like Olave is just one concussion away from retiring at all times. So I don't know. It's hard for me to. I know he's good, but it's hard for me to look past that element with him. I'm just terrified every time he takes the field.
Yeah, and Olave is a good receiver in this league, and a guy that it's very hard to evaluate him. I think from my perspective, Dylan, because the quarterback play has been so bad since Olave has come to that team. And, when he had Carr there, I think Carr was able to do a little bit more with him. Part of me wonders with Olave, put him with a good quarterback and you start to see a little bit more of what he can do, as long as, to Brennan's point, his cranium can stay strapped onto his skull. But I think JSN is the better player here. You have just more dynamicism, and Olave has never been close to the kind of pace. And this is JSN, not just with Sam Darnold lighting it up, but hey, he put up 1,200 yards last year with Geno Smith, and that was half the year where you were trying to target DK Metcalf to the ultimate. So it was really only the back half of the schedule you really let him go and cook like he did. So I think he's not only a better version, he's probably a significantly better version all the way down the line, even absent some of the concussion stuff. But I don't say this with ultimately a ton of confidence, Dylan, because of that lack of good quarterback, lack of good offense, lack of a good head coach, lack of a good team Olave's been able to use around him.
Yeah, and the other thing, and I've talked about this before, the Saints offense this year was terrible for Shaheed. Like their whole offense was the quarterback hits his back foot and throws it. That's not really Shaheed's game. Like he's had one play this year, I think, for the 87-yard touchdown where he actually got to do Rasheed Shaheed stuff. But this guy's in an offense that is completely antithetical to the kind of player that he is, it feels like. He's a guy that should be running routes deep down the field, and he can't get downfield in time because Rattler's already thrown the ball. So I think that's also something to keep in mind here as well. This is going to be a much better offense for him.
100%. Great point there. And yeah, you remember when we were looking at the Saints team coming into it and what they had done for the first couple of weeks before we played them. To Brendan's point, all you were seeing Rattler do was not only hit the back foot and get it back, but there was not going to be any 7-step drops in there. It was 3 and 5-step drops, and then he was going to the first read. There was no 2 reads. So to get the most out of Rasheed, you got to have the long developing routes down the field a little bit. He's fast. He's going to get down through those routes really quickly, but a long crosser, a deep 9 route, you got to have the pass pro that can hold up and an offense that's willing to hang in there to let it rip. And Seattle's shown that already, of course, with that being as much of Sam Darnold's bread and butter as anything else. Got a variety of things that are bread and butter, but that's one of them. So you're going to get him another level, maybe even see the best Rasheed, we've ever seen of him as far as that goes in his 4-year career. For the same reason we talk about Olave, you haven't seen him with any of those other things either. To your point on that,
yeah, I think there's a sense. I think some people kind of thought of Shaheed as being like what we hoped MVS would be. He's more than that. He's more of a complete receiver. He's not Tyreek Hill. But he's not Marquez Valdez-Scantling either. He's a much better all-around receiver. He also has much better hands. He's actually got, I was looking this up yesterday for a video. He's got excellent hands. He's got 2 drops in his career on well over 200 targets. And MVS, the whole thing with him is he can't catch the ball. And really what MVS is, he is a guy who takes the top off the defense and he catches 1 to 2 passes a game. I think Rasheed could be like a 1,000-yard receiver very reasonably in a normal offense because he brings more things to the table than just scaring the team with his downfield speed.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And that this is a guy who gets a little bit more. I was looking at the PFF contested catch rate stuff too, on top of the drops. He's pretty good in contested catch stuff down the field as well. And one year, I think it was like 50%, 6 to 12 or something on contested catches.
Yeah.
So he seems to be, there's a little bit more here to him than just trying to say, well, he's just a burner that's going to take the top off. And that's the only, role he'll find to fit into. And it's going to be probably a big part of what they have him do, just because there's so much of an opening for right now with how defenses are attacking you, to like, this is going to be wide open to utilize this time and time again, you would think, if defenses are going to continue to maintain the same structure they have coming into this point. But that's where the challenge comes in, man, because, what do you want to do here? You know, where you want to get hammered at? You want to get getting taking the top off, or you want to put some protection on the backside and let us run the ball a little bit?
Right. And that's the main thing I'm excited for. Shaheed's going to catch balls, but he's not going to catch that many in this offense. But the real value is, what if now Walker and Charbonnet get to go up against 7-man fronts?
Yeah. It's not really about the volume aspect of this or even the productivity. It's about the efficiency. I mean, we're all the way down to 24th in the NFL now in passing attempts, Brendan. Nobody's going to, it makes it all that much more surprising that JSN's getting done what he's doing, considering that. But with him taking half the target share on you being 24th in passing attempts, unless teams really start to double JSN, there's just only going to be so many touches for everybody else on the line. But be efficient with it, be hyper productive with the targets that you do get. Yeah, that's definitely would be my outlook for how this should and could go. I
think we're 30th in passing attempts, only ahead of Philly and Baltimore, if I remember correctly.
Okay. I looked yesterday. I thought it was 24th, but I was looking at the players. I wasn't looking at total team passing attempts. So I know you get back.
That's probably it. That's probably a part of it. A lot of these teams have had multiple QBs play this year.
Yeah. So you're at the bottom barrel there. That's the only, but that's a good problem to have there, because it ain't because you're leasing attempts because you're not able to throw the ball. It's just that you're getting up on so many teams and you're up ahead and you're running the ball to bleed out the clock. And that's just kind of how it goes. Brian Myers, thank you for the $5 donation. Brian, good to see you in the house. He says, I feel the need for Shaheed. That's right, man. Hold on. I gotta get my drop on that one, Brennan. Yeah.
Enough said.
Enough said, baby. Enough said. Let's go.
And I am hoping that he is a long-term Seahawk. I will say that. Obviously, you got to let this season play out first, but I am hoping that he becomes a long-term Seahawk. I think this is exactly the kind of thing that you want when you have JSN, because, we gotta prepare for that JSN contract. It's going to hit hard.
Yes, sir.
And, I made a video talking about this, and a lot of people were very resistant to the idea of giving a receiver over $40 million a year. But,
oh, goodness, come on.
I'm telling people it's going to happen, and it's okay. It's fine. Like, this isn't a DK Metcalf thing where it was debatable whether or not DK was going to be worth the kind of money he was going to get. Like, I think you could probably look at it and conclude, technically, no, he's not, but he's close, and it's hard to get it. It was a debate. This isn't a debate. JSN might do something that no receiver in NFL history has ever done this year. Whatever he wants, he's worth, and it's fine.
Yeah, just put it down the baseline this. If let's say you're 27th in passing attempts and you have a wide receiver that's just set the yardage record while you went out and potentially won the division or at least got in the playoffs on top of that, if that's not a reason at that point to reward that guy for whatever contract he basically wants, I don't know what is. On top of the point, remember the age factors into this too versus DK and him. He's still 23 years old, is JSN. I mean, he's still kind of a baby or just turned 24, one of those two. He's right there. So he's going to be so young with such a very long career ahead of him here. There's no worries at all on paying a guy that amount of money at all. And you'll be able to structure this right. He's not going into the third contract, second contract off his rookie deal. So you can structure the first couple years of this deal to make it very decent for Seattle while he's still getting paid, especially like we just talked about earlier with these option bonuses and ways to kind of move the money a little bit down the line. John has shown a willingness here, even with the Leonard Williams contract, to bring in the void money aspect of this as well, a little bit of a new normal in the NFL. And that a couple different levers here you can pull to make this contract work while JSN still gets paid, and it doesn't have to completely hammer your salary cap. And let's face it, we got 2 more years of fairly cheap Sam Darnold still on point as well. So, it's not like we are in a bad cap situation in this, which is another factor to it.
Yeah. And, but I do think it's fair to say that you don't want to then have another super high paid receiver on your team when you have JSN making that money. I think that's at least a fair assessment of things. Yeah. And a guy like Shaheed, who is probably going to be like, 12, 13, 14 million a year, somewhere in there. Like that's probably about where you want to be. That's probably about what you want to hit.
Yeah. And that's where you think about the Cooper Kupp thing being flipped over. Cooper Kupp's got an $18.5 million cap hit next year. You can save about $9 million by moving off of him. And so you move that money over the first year of the cap hit for Shaheed. It's going to probably be around, right, what, Brendan, $7-8 million, even on a $13 million deal. So it's like bingo, bango. There you just move the money from one to the other. You've got Horton on a rookie deal. You've got still Arroyo as a cheap tight end on the rookie deal. A couple of those back end guys like, or maybe I think Drake Young's a free agent after this year, but I think you still bring back White. Not sure on Bobo. I think maybe Bobo's got one more year. So
no,
you can.
This is year 3, and he was an undrafted rookie. So.
There we go. Okay, after 3 years, he's out. So you'll probably go with a young guy somewhere in the draft too. But you got the Ricky Whites in there as well. Might be he develops long term, and we're talking about back end receivers on the roster at this point a little bit. So yeah, I could see them doing that, Brennan. You can afford that. You can't afford the 2. We're seeing with the Bengals this year that what that does if you try to pay 2 receivers high water mark money, it just destroys the rest of your roster. But you can pay 1.
Yeah, especially when the 1 is unimpeachably this good. Again, this is not a DK Metcalf situation where there was a debate, right? There was a debate. How good is DK? Some people thought he was this. Some people thought he was that. There's no debate here. Like JSN has checked every box imaginable.
Absolutely, he has. He's earned it. If a receiver can earn it in every which way, I think he has earned it at this point to call for that extension, and you're not going to have any problem paying him at that point. Which, we eventually got to talk maybe about the possibility on this compensatory game where John could get a little bit funky with this if he wanted to, Brendan, where he wanted to front load some of these contract extensions he does this year in order to play the compensatory game. So, front load Charles, front row Devin Witherspoon, front load Jackson Smith and Jigba's deal, work up the contract with a couple other deals, bring in let's say a Crosby. Suddenly now you eat up that cap space. And now if you have a Walker, Woolen, Job, a couple other guys, Mafe in free agency, and now they go get those contracts. You can go pull the whole compensatory game to the other side. I know I've been reticent with how much cap space we have, but could be a way that John could kind of get funky with it if he wanted to try to.
Yeah, and you could spend all that cap space on one player if you wanted to go for a bigger swing, and I would be okay with that as long as the player's good.
Yep. Especially like Crosby comes in, he's gonna have a big cap hit even with what you have coming from the Raiders, but then a way to maybe then work that and get those extra draft picks back that you give up for Crosby because he's taking up that cap space with this next year as you're sitting on the 7th most amount of cap space. So, maybe John gets creative with it. You never know there. Feed Me, thank you for the $2 donation. Feed Me More Seahawks. He says, Jacoby Brissett sacked 16 times in just 3 games.
Yeah, if you're Derek Hall and Boye Mafe, who both still don't have a sack this year, this is the week where you're like, okay, we got to make up for this. We got to start trying to get that second contract going.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, this is the one where you should be licking your chops. We've had some quarterbacks in recent weeks, Baker Mayfield, CJ Stroud, some guys that were able to kind of Jaden Daniels at times get out of sacks that should have been. And now you have a guy that's not going to be able to make those same moves in the pocket as far as to get out. And I think one thing in doing some research for this, Brendan, for this game that stood out to me that was surprising is that, you expect with Kyler Murray when he's back there to be a long time to throw kind of quarterback where he's going to hold on to the ball. He's going to take extra time to do what he does. The time to throw is really not dropped down that significantly since Jacoby Brissett stepped in there. He's still operating at a high hold rate as far as for his time to throw goes. And so I combine the lack of mobility, holding on the ball for a long period of time at times back there. That should set the stage for your pass rushers this week to be able to get after it. And you able to eclipse what the Dallas Cowboys did last week, which is Dante Fowler there. I think they had 5 sacks in the game or something like that. So
Clowney had one. I know Clowney had one.
Yeah, Clowney had one too. So you should be able to pull off a good 6-7 sacks in this game based on, again, the other part of this being that the offensive line for the Cardinals, Evan Brown at left guard, the right side is kind of a sub-catastrophe right now in how they're operating in pass protection. You should be able to really get after him in this way.
Yeah, Jacoby doesn't play like Russell Wilson, but it is a little Russell Wilson-y in that he's a guy who will hold on to the ball, take a lot of sacks, not turn it over. Like it is a little Russell Wilson-y in that way, I think.
It is, and he can do it to the good side for him too, because it's also a toughness thing where he will stand in the pocket and that big body he has. I was talking about where guys can kind of bounce off of him, kind of Roethlisberger thing, where Roethlisberger just have guys go tackle him and they just kind of slide off of him. He's not doing a move. He's not shaking him. He's just big and they're smaller and they can't quite bring him down. He's also a guy that can still get that throw off with guys kind of hanging off of him. And so there's the good side of it too, for his credit of it, to where he can make some good throws still with you bearing down that pressure in ways that other guys, that smaller quarterbacks couldn't, take that. But he is going to stand tall in there. He's going to take those hits and give you those opportunities to go get those sacks.
Yeah, apparently Jacoby has it was either one of the lowest, it might have been the lowest interception rate of any quarterback who has reached a certain number of attempts in NFL history. He
Yeah.
is very, very turnover averse. It's very impressive, actually.
Certainly, especially because a lot of what he's doing is trying to target the middle of the field since he's taken over the Cardinal offense. And we know that that's where a lot of those interceptions can tend to come when you're really going to target at a high rate. He made a few throws on some in-breaking routes last week watching the game where it's like, oh, he had to put that up over a Cowboy defender head, and he had the in-cutting route over the top, and he was able to put it right on the spot with defenders over the back. You know, and the throw goes a little wrong to the front, throw goes a little wrong to the depth. And he's in a position at that point where it's an easy interception. So he is still making some pretty ballsy throws. It's not just him saying dink and dunk, you know, check everything down, and that's how I'll stay protective there with it. He's being willing to let it rip.
Impressive.
Very impressive. Dogzilla Monster. Thank you for the $2 donation, Dogzilla. Will hashish affect the Cards secondary?
I assume hashish is some kind of a nickname for Rasheed Shaheed. I don't know.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I like it. It took me a second. Yeah, you've got two Cardinal rookies out there starting today. Will Johnson, very talented kid, and he's had a pretty good rookie year for them. And then Ohio State's Denzel Burke is going to probably start out there because Max Melton is in concussion protocol. So two rookies against these receivers, against the Seahawks offense. Should be the Seahawks offensive advantage. Of course, the Cardinals do a pretty good job about generating pressure, especially now that they're getting healthier and healthier on the defensive line. So that's a part of this too, of the puzzle there. But you do have some definite mismatches in that secondary you should be able to go after.
Yeah. Love Will Johnson, though. That guy's playing good. Credit to him. But again, the main thing we're going to see is how do the Cardinals change the way they play us with Shaheed? Because remember, in that first half against Arizona earlier this year, that's the one time this year where a team really took JSN away for an extended period of time. They were doing good. Second half, I don't really know what happened, but that first half they had the feel. So having a guy like Shaheed is going to make a big difference against a team like this, I think.
I agree. You want to double him up. Good luck then. You're singling, like you said earlier, you can't single this guy up. You can't not have safety help over the top. And if you do so, he is going to just cut you apart. So pick your poison, Cardinals. Which do you want, JSN, or you want Rasheed to go after you and get you in? We still got our tight ends in there, and you got Horton with 2 touchdown receptions last week. So you're got some dynamic elements you can throw at this Cardinal secondary. We'll see how that rolls. I like that. The hashish will definitely affect them, Cardinals, especially as they're in Seattle here. It's a double 2 hashish. It's the hashish at night, in the morning, and then it's Rasheed during the game.
Yeah, well, I will say I went to Arizona earlier this year with my dad and my brother for spring training. And some of the stuff they had down there, I didn't partake, but my dad did. And he said it was way better than the stuff up here. So they might be. Wow. Yeah, he loved it. He was like, wow, this stuff is blowing me away.
Oh, wow. You moved to Arizona maybe, huh? Feed Me More Seahawks. Thank you for the $2 donation. Says, what's up with the Packers? Such a pretender so far. Packers are a strange team for me to look at. I thought that they would be a lot more dangerous this year after the Micah Parsons trade. The offense in particular has been surprising, and I just feel like Jordan Love has not developed as a quarterback like the Packers thought he would. I don't think he's taken that big final step of a Rodgers or Favre before him, and that he's still a guy that's got some limitations for how he plays the position.
Yeah, to me, he is a Baker Mayfield, kind of the same thing, where he's good, but that scheme, I think, does a lot of the heavy lifting. Like, you watch a Packers game, so many screens, so many wide open players off play action. You okay? You good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
But yeah, so many like that Liam Cohen style offense that makes Baker look so much better than I think he actually is. I think that LaFleur does something similar with Love. And again, Love is good, but I think that LaFleur is doing the heavy lifting there.
Don't you feel though with Baker though, that he's also able to go through like multiple reads and do more improvisational stuff? I just don't think that there's any of that really in Jordan Love's game for the most part. You get a flash here and a flash there, but I watch so many of those games where his head goes to the first read and it never deviates from that first read. And he will stare down a target and then finally let it rip after staring a target down. And I just feel like, dude, you've been in this league now for 6 years. You should be able to go through, like they showed Darnold, remember in the telecast last week? I had a great all 22 shot in the game that they showed where he goes 1, 2, 3, comes back over here. And he did it a couple times in the game. I don't ever see Love doing any of that type of stuff. He's always onto that first read. Back to your point about the manufactured nature of the offense. So it does come down to more of love for me on this feed me. They've given him all you could want in the world there. They've given him a good offensive line. Christian Watkins was back last week. You've got Golden in the mix there. Romeo Dobbs. Now they lose Kraft, who had been kind of their number one, inexplicably their number one receiver. I mean, that's after they drafted Luke Musgrave in the second round. They've done nothing to give this guy all the tools in the world for succeeding and having the success, including LaFleur and his smart mind. And it's just not, the elevator's not going all the way up on this one. And I don't know that it will this year when you're looking this bad across the board against teams even like the Browns, where you can't put together anything. And that's a good Browns defense. But I mean, they've had a couple of these games where that offense has been completely lost. And now Tucker Kraft's out for the year. He's gone, done.
Yeah. I don't know. I should say I'm not surprised, because I started to notice this last year. Whenever I watch a Packers game, it's just like so much manufactured, easy throws. It's again, it's like a Liam Cohen offense, and that's fine, but I don't think that makes the quarterback great, because he can complete a lot of screen passes.
Yeah, and you can only go so far with screen passes and little just, manufactured stuff here and there. You got to eventually have the QB play the position legit. And I think Josh Jacobs isn't necessarily, maybe he's hit a little bit of that running back wall. He doesn't seem like he's quite running with the same tenacity of spirit we've seen with him in recent years to Raiders in the first year they were the Packers. I think that's a little bit too. They can't lean on that as much as they have in the past. So we'll, Pretender is kind of right with him. Donos just keep on running through, folks. Thank you for all of the support to the channel as we are cooking through today. I'm still behind a couple on this. You guys are amazing. Kyle from South Park, thank you for the $2 donation. Shaheed said in the media he will be here long term.
I mean, I appreciate him saying that. That doesn't mean it will happen, but I would hope so. I if he's a rental, it's not the end of the world, but I'm not excited about giving up a fourth and a fifth for a guy for half a season. So I definitely would like to make him a long-term Seahawk.
Yeah, he's definitely has the intention to say that there, Kyle. I think sometimes with this, these players are well coached by their agents to say the right thing at the right time, and doesn't mean he doesn't mean it, but it's also something you would expect a guy to say coming in here. He wants them to pay him. He'd love to probably have them pay him what he wants to be paid before he has to get to free agent next year. So, you say, hey, I want to be here. You have a good couple of games. Does that encourage that team enough at that point to say, maybe we'll give you that extension right now and not let this get to free agency? Maybe so. So there's a bit of a game being played here on this. Again, not to mean that he isn't being true to what he's saying on it, but it doesn't mean that he's saying, I'm going to be here come hell or high water. Like, even if they don't give me the contract that I want, I still want to stay here because Seattle's just so awesome. So definitely cool to hear that he says that. Love that part. And I'm not saying he's lying with it, but just that we'll see what happens when we actually get to kind of the negotiation point and rubber meets the road as far as that goes. Yeah.
I remember Golden Tate. I'd be willing to take a discount to stay in Seattle, and then he got the offer and he's like, that's not what I was talking about.
Exactly. The players will play a PR game here a little bit, but it's not always the truth of the bottom line here, to Brendan's point on the Golden State situation. So hopefully we can keep him. I think the team will try here, Kyle, for sure, but no guarantee, especially if he goes out there and is potentially able to somewhat break the bank on the receiver market here heading into this offseason. Though I will say the draft does look like it's at least got some good receivers, so that may do some depressing of wide receiver contracts like him on the market this next off season. Tolt, thank you for another $2 over on Brendan's side. I don't care if I got to donate my foot, hands, or eyes. Pay JSN.
We want this team to have good players, people.
We want the player to have good. Yeah. Sorry,
they don't give out a trophy at the end of the year to the team that is the most financially efficient. All right. There are no trophies for having a financially efficient team. They give out trophies to the best team.
100%, man. And I think John Schneider has been in the past a guy that if you've earned a contract extension, he's going to give it to you. He's not letting young players go that go to other places and get these extensions elsewhere. He's done this over and over again. If you've been drafted, if you've earned that extension, he's going to give it to you. So fans might get a little bit unsure on this one, Talt, but the deal's going to get done. John's going to get him the contract, and I would assume that it would get done pretty early on this offseason. I don't think they're going to even make him wait till like that old July period. Maybe, because that's what they sometimes have done here, but he's getting paid. One way or the other, he's getting paid. Don't worry, folks. Jackson Smith will get paid.
Yeah. Did you see the Brady Henderson thing with Nemhauser? I thought that was telling.
With what? What was it? No, I didn't see.
Basically, Brady Henderson was tweeting about, JSN, guys like JSN and Witherspoon getting paid. And Nemhauser replied to it and said, I'd be surprised if they paid JSN or Witherspoon this offseason because they typically don't do that. And then Brady Henderson just replied and said, prepared to be surprised. and he was speaking like he knew what was up, like he knew. And Brady Henderson's an insider, right? He's not just a guy who throws his beliefs out there. He has inside information. It sounded like he was basically saying, I know what's going on here, and JSN is going to get paid this offseason for sure.
Yeah, I just don't think you're going to sit on either of those two guys. I think the deal gets done. I think Charles Cross, what happened with him this last offseason, probably has them Howard's thinking that this is the same route they're going to take. But I think with Charles, they weren't as assured for where he was at as these other two guys a little bit. And then the other part with Charles too was just you weren't going to get a lot of tremendous amount of savings on that deal, getting him done at this time. You might be able to with JSN and Witherspoon doing them a little early from their first round contracts with still having 2 years. Leverage drives contracts, and having that leverage on those contracts can help. I'm not saying it's going to significantly lower down what you have to end up paying, but might lower down just a little bit. And that's the driver. It's like the Lucas thing, man. We said Lucas, if he can become the player we think he can become, you giving him an extension actually saves you money. It was not an equivalency with Cross because he had done a little bit more than Lucas. He was a little bit closer to that top end of what he could hope to reel in. And that was going to just mean that at that point, you might as well just wait for the year on that one from their perspective.
Yeah, and there aren't going to be a lot of receivers that get paid in the upcoming offseason other than JSN. Like Puka might get paid.
Yep.
He's the other. Zay Flowers will get paid, but I don't think he's going to get paid on the level of JSN or Puka at all.
No.
But if you wait until 2024, you've got Marvin Harrison. He could get paid depending on how the next year and a half goes.
Mm-hmm.
If Malik Neighbors makes a full recovery, he's going to get a ton of money, I think, because he's very good. You got Rome Odunze. You've got Brian Thomas Jr. If he gets it together, he's very good. Like you're going to end up in a situation where the price gets driven up because these other high-profile receivers, I think, are going to get big money.
Agreed. Well, another factor here is that you waiting is going to mean much more significant cost down the line. So it'll get done. It'll get done, Talt. Don't worry. Daniel Menjarez, a $2 donation on your side. He asks, any thoughts on how Jalen Milroe will look like?
Yeah, I don't even really think about Jalen Milroe anymore. Right now, I just kind of feel like he's maybe this is how we get one of our day 3 picks back in the offseason. Like, honestly, that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, Daniel, I mean, the thing with Jalen Milroe is both me and Brendan had a very similar outlook on Jalen Milroe when he was drafted. We took a lot of heat for our outlook with the fan base because everybody wanted to be positive Paul and sunshine and roses, and every pick is the most amazing pick ever. That's not the way we operate here, of course, and we didn't operate that with Milroe. And quite frankly, Milroe might prove us wrong down the line and become the quarterback a lot of Hawk fans are hoping he can be. But quite frankly, since I've seen him in training camp and preseason and the couple times he's come out in the field, it's confirmed more of what our evaluations were with him in college coming out. He's got a lot of talent. There's no doubting that, but there's a lot of deficiencies to his game as well that he has to overcome to tap into that talent. And maybe those things will develop with time, but they're not there right now. They're not close to being there right now. It's probably more of a guy that you got to wait 2 years to really see what you got really far down the line in him. But I still do remain reticent that we just don't have a big track record of guys like this, so rough looking in college, so rough looking at kind of and what they've got to clean up around the edges of this when they start to get to the pros. And then that gets corrected 2 years down the line. It's possible. We may be in a new norm in the NFL with this. We're seeing more quarterbacks with reclamation ability to tap these skills out. But I just don't have a lot of a baseline. And that's why I'm a little bit still unsure that he's ever going to quite get to that point.
Yeah. And with Darnold playing so well, I don't know why I'd waste bandwidth thinking about it. Like, it'd be one thing if Darnold was playing okay and I was still thinking like, okay, we're going to move off of him in 2 years. And Milroe's going to be the guy then, but I don't even know if I think that anymore. I kind of don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I think your hope here is that you can give him a little bit of a sprinkling in here and there at times, show off what he can bring. Maybe he shows a little bit of development, and then you can kind of talk, like to your point, team into thinking, okay, we'll give you a little bit of this for him, and you get a little bit maybe capital back. Best case, you can maybe pull a late second round back maybe for the third round pick you gave up, where it becomes like that investment, Daniel. But I don't think he looks to be the long-term quarterback here now, as Sam looks pretty embedded, to Brendan's point.
Right.
Michael Bicknell, thank you for celebrating 1 month on my side of things. Appreciate you for that. Healthy defensive line equals confidence against any team.
Yeah, first time this year that whole defensive line is all healthy at the same time, because those first 3 games, I don't think Nwosu was ready to go, really. He was warming up. But it's tough to deal with right now. Every game, PFF's giving us like 30 quarterback pressures.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about sending waves and from every different direction at these teams, and then McDonald really getting into his bag with the stack boxes the past, especially to me, 3 weeks. He has really shown a willingness to get creative and throw a lot at these oppositions. And boy, he had Jaden Daniels so uncomfortable in that game on top of everything else. But yeah, and then you got Eamon and Witherspoon in the combination of what they bring in the secondary out there, and Woolen playing motivated. The combination of all this is where we had seen the potentiality of this team rising to becoming the number one defense in this sport by the end of the year. That's certainly on that kind of trajectory, and especially because of the fact you're able to keep the health, and you're going to hopefully have everybody back in tow here some point or another. And if that happens, just one more factor working in their favor.
Right. I like it.
Yes, sir. Cooper Gay, thank you for the $2 donation over on Brendan's side. Cooper, the brisket's going to get tender on Sunday. Oh, we're slow cooking it, Brendan. First through fourth quarter, turn that thing over and slow cook it, right?
I don't think we've ever lost to Brissett. We played him twice.
That's
Something
right.
Like that. And
yeah,
I don't think we lost to him.
Colts. We played him with Colts, and Russ got him on that one, and then we got him Patriots last year.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can.
Man, he's been in the league a long time. That Colts game feels like a billion years ago. That was the game where Averill got hurt and his career ended. Yeah,
boy, that one is a long time ago. That's a good point. That's a million miles. Brissett's been in the sport for quite a bit of time, man. He's had a pretty long career. He's one of those backups that's probably going to do pretty well. Like, he made out $50 million as a backup through the course of his career. One of those Chase Daniels times.
Yeah, well, Chase Daniels is the ultimate because he never played and he still made like $60 million.
Yeah, it's good gig if you can get it, Brendan. I'll tell you what. But love the confidence, Cooper. Let's get it, man. Let's get it. Chad Hart has become a member over on your side. So thank you for becoming a member of Brennan's side. You can be a member at either our end. Please, guys, hit that like button. Sub on up too. Always got to remind you guys, if you get a chance today, would really appreciate it. Chad, you're awesome for doing that.
Thank you, Chad.
Michael Bicknell, and thank you guys for all these donations. We're still stacking them deep here. Thank you for the $5 donation, Michael. I know Tariq is big, but seeing him stand next to Drake and Okada looks like Master Chief next to a civvy. Laughing out loud, praying his focus stays the rest of the season.
Yeah, he's a different man. He came back from that concussion a different man, I feel like. And I know that his bad play was mostly confined to that first game, the week 1 game. But I still feel like he looks better than he was even in the few games after that. Like something's changed.
Yeah, he's motivated as hell. He's laying hits out there on the field. I mean, he's getting into it. It's all about motivation with him. The talent is there. The ability is there. He's advanced himself along, I think, as a cornerback where he's no longer just, I don't know what to do with my feet. I'm a wide receiver transitioning over here. I think he's got fully acclimated now, and it's a bit more second nature-ish. It's just, are you locked in? And I've said, lock in for this back half of the schedule, my man, and you're going to go make yourself a lot of money. Go get a couple picks down the line. Be really solid and give up very little in coverage. Raiders will be knocking on your door with a $15 million contract, $20 million contract. So go earn that money. Go show that you can do it. Go show that it's worthwhile. Yeah,
his agent got in his face and was like, you're supposed to start sucking after you get the contract, not before.
You don't take your foot off the gas now.
Like, who was the guy? Jerome James. Like he just on Seattle, he had like an incredible 10-game run or something in the playoffs, and then he got paid. And I don't even know if he ever played basketball again after that. I think.
He ended up going to the Knicks. Yeah, we moved to the Knicks. The Knicks were pissed about that. They're still mad about that contract. You hear them still moaning and complaining about it. To your point,
a lot of Knicks contracts have pissed them off over the years. So that's another one in the pile.
That's very, very true. Very true. So I'm with you, Michael. Him playing like this at a motivated level, because you have with the other two corner positions in Eamon and Witherspoon, what you're getting from those guys. It just really makes this defense even that much more tougher if you can have the back end secondary that tight, knowing the front end, like Brendan just said, that gets a million pressures a game on the front side, and one of the best teams in the league is stopping the run. That combination is the kind of combination that leads to a number one defense. That's the kind of combination of a defense that can make noise in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. Even a guy like Drake Thomas, who I wasn't necessarily thinking was going to be all that great for us. He's getting to the point now where it's like, okay, I'm okay if he's the starter for the rest of the year. I'll live with the risk.
Both him and Okada have gotten better and better with the more time they've gotten to play, Brendan. That's just been undeniable about it. So I look at that and I go, that's That's a great development for us, but I'm with you. I'm happy with either of the two guys for as long as I got to roll with them right now because they are just playing at a pretty high level, both of them. I'm not saying that they're star-like, but they're definitely not just playing like a bunch of scrubs out there, guys. You're just trying to kind of band-aid to get past until you can get something more talented out there.
Absolutely. Love it.
Zizo, thank you for the $5 donation. Toon, love your shows. Thanks for all the effort. They both make work go by much faster. Even when I can't make them live. Have a good day. Well, thank you for that, Toon. Very kind of you to say. I always love, Brendan, the thought of people on work just listening to you guys on the podcast. I'm sure you've done that in your past when you work back in the day before you're doing this full time. You'd have something in the background listening to. It's kind of just the ultimate way to kind of consume a podcast to me in the background in such a fashion. So I love that, Toon.
Well, it depends on your job. Like if this guy's a heart surgeon, I don't think he should be listening to us when he's working, right?
He's so good he doesn't have to look at it, you know. Well, he's just listening. His eyes are on the heart, Brendan. He's got his hands on the heart. He's just listening to us in the background.
I hope so. I hope he's really good then, you know.
Makes it better. Listen to us. We make him better somehow on that. That's what I say. But thank you, Toon. Very kind of you to say, man. And we both love what he do. So pleasure on our end as well. JX6, thank you for the $2 donation. He says, how do y'all feel about Walter Nolan? I'm kind of worried.
Had a pretty good first game. He was pretty good against Dallas. Overall, I'm not a big fan of his. I didn't view him as being worthy of a first-round pick, I don't think. I do think he's probably better than the guys they had out there without Walter Nolan, because that Arizona, that's one of the things with Arizona this year. They supercharged their defensive line, threw a ton of investment into it because it was so bad last year. So I'm sure Nolan's better than the guys who were taking snaps in front of him, but I don't know. I just view him as another guy more than anything, especially right now as a rookie.
Yeah, I'm not super worried about him. I think, again, me and Brendan on this have similar outlooks of him as a player coming out of college. And the thing with him is that he's a hot and cold guy. And when he's hot, there's legitimate talent there. There's legitimate potential impact there. I wonder if over his career, he's going to be known as a bit of a guy that can run hot and cold. And that when he goes cold, it's very ice cold a little bit. When the motor's not revved hot, then you feel it. And this is a guy that didn't play one game throughout this whole year, comes out and plays his first game of the season, probably pretty motivated in that first game of the season to show out on his best. As well, the Cowboys were behind this game very early on by a significant margin. And that meant that they were passing all the time. And then that also meant that you were going to have a guy like in Walter Nolan that could pin his ears back and then just get after the pass rusher. Got a sack, got 3 tackles, knocked down a ball. It's a good game, but let's not treat it like, too like that this was Aaron Donald out there for them in what he was doing. It was an improvement. It's something he can build upon. Maybe he's got that talent that's now fully motivated and turned on that I didn't see as much in college, where I could get an Alabama game that he tears the top off the defense against a legit foe. But then he comes back the next 3 or 4 weeks and he's really quiet, and you don't feel anything of what he's not doing much of anything on tape at all. And we'll see. He also gets a little bit out of control. This was also on tape, and this is something that Mike, the AZ guy that I did a behind enemy line session with yesterday, spoke to. Also something to watch here, which is that he is a guy that just wants to get upfield and attack. And that sometimes then leaves him outside of the gap integrity. And now you can attack him in the hole that he just sort of left. So something to watch as well within this game a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm more worried about Calais Campbell. I'll put it to you that way. If I'm worried about anybody, because that guy, he's still doing it, man.
And he's been a problem. Yeah. And he's been a problem even against the last time we played him. So it's like every time he seems to get like 1 sack against us every game. He's probably like right behind Darnold with like the most sacks in his career against the Seahawks. I wouldn't be surprised if he was number 2.
Well, isn't Derek Thomas number 1?
Yeah, Derek's probably number 1. But how much of that's driven by the 7-sack game that he had against us?
Yeah, true.
That's as much. Remember back then we were running the ball so much, we weren't passing much outside of that game. So he wasn't getting the ops. Ricky Ricardo, thank you for the $5 donation, Ricky. If Derek Hall and Mafe can't get sacks versus a quarterback who's been sacked this often, is that on them, or did the quarterback finally clean it up this week? See why Max was wanted.
Well, I mean, we have to see how the game goes. We can't really answer that until we see what happens in the game. Maybe this will be the week where Brissett starts getting the ball out in like 2.1 seconds per snap, maybe. But we can't know until we see the game.
Hard to say on that, Ricky, to Brendan's point, because of the fact you're playing on the road and you are aware of the fact you've been sacked a lot with Jacoby, and you're aware of the fact that Seattle gets after the quarterback so well. It would probably be, offensive coordinator not doing his job if he wasn't trying to build more of some of the shorter, quicker passes into the attack this week to try to help out Brissett a little bit against what this defense can do really, really well. So I'd expect there to be some mitigation here, but this is also who Jacoby is a little bit to the bottom line as well, is that he's going to be a guy that's going to, hold the ball a little bit, and he's going to try to get some of those intermediate throws, especially down the field, and willing to work that. And that's going to give these guys opportunities. You're right about Hall and Mafe to me, and that, what you've seen from this year so far is why you're driven to want to look for the difference-making edge rusher, because these aren't bad players, and they can provide some good pressure, and they can provide some stuff. But you're seeing in this defense, to me, Brendan, the one last little hole of what you could really put in there. You put a lot of different great parts together. You got your Kyle Hamilton, you got Leonard playing amazing, you got Byron Murphy with all he brings in the potential, and you got a deep edge crew, but a difference-making edge that adds to the mix of the solid guys you got could really then almost make this defense close to, I'm not gonna say perfect, but about as ideal as you could get conceptually wise in trying to put a defense together, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I do think that John was willing to give up that a pretty big pile of picks, maybe not enough, but to make it happen. And I know that if it had happened, there would be a substantial part of the Seahawks fandom that would freak out about giving up so many picks. But this is the thing that could make this defense the best in football. And maybe it is anyway. Maybe it is the best defense in football already. I don't know. But this is the thing that would make it comparable to the 2013 Seahawks.
I think you could make a strong argument that you're starting to get in that territory where you're building a defense like that. And so understandable why they did. I think they're still in Mafe and Hall, a lot of still potential in these guys. I don't think that they've necessarily played their final form of football that they will play in this sport. But part of why is also why, Ricky, we're talking about, I think in this offseason, you're going to double back down along this one. If not max, try to make that run of it at a Myles Garrett type if you can. And I can completely understand why they would.
Yeah, I dig it.
Sean McLeod, thank you for the $2 donation. Sean, Shaheed gets us to the red zone. Horton gets us into the end zone. Oh, I like that one.
I mean, Shaheed can get in the end zone too. Let's not sell him short here. He can do it on special teams too. He can get you in the end zone both ways.
Indeed he can. And it's both of them got some ability in that way. And boy, Horton on pace for I think 11 touchdowns receiving in his rookie year, as being a guy, Brendan, that's just so very fewly targeted, so often having the opportunities to do what he's doing.
Right.
This kid's got a lot of potential to him, man.
Yeah, I do like him. So and some people were saying that getting Shaheed might stunt Horton's development. I don't think so. It's not like Horton was catching a ton of balls anyway.
No, I don't think so either. It's a rounded out, and Horton still is a rookie, and you're still wanting. I like fitting rookies to roles, Brendan, more than I like putting rookies and saying you're a starter 24/7, 365. You're running all the snaps here. I like get them in a role, let them operate within that role contextually to where they can kind of master it, and then you expand out in the next couple of years as you can. I think Horton long term can be that starter there, that number 2 wide receiver in this offense, but no reason why you have to make that happen right now.
Correct.
SZ Koken, thank you for a month on Brendan's side as a Hawks Nest member. He asked, Brendan, are you live streaming the game this week?
Yes, this is going to be one of my live streams for this year. I'm only going to do a couple, but this is going to be one of them because I know I can't do the Rams game because I'm actually going to a watch party for that one. So I'm going to do the Cardinals game.
Okay, there we go. So Brendan will be live, as will I, on game day this upcoming week. And you better catch Brendan one of the few times he's doing it this year.
Right.
Wu-Tang Financial, thank you for the $5 donation. Wu-Tang, good to see you in the house, brother. I think we will win by double digits the way we've been playing lately, and we don't have to play in their cursed stadium. Go Hawks. Excited to see Shaheed.
Yeah, I'm less confident in a blowout with Brissett out there. I think he can kind of equalize the game out to reduce the variance a little bit. Maybe he doesn't have Kyler's upside, but I think there's less downside with him out there. But, I mean, the potential is out there for this to be a pretty one-sided affair. Maybe we can get Jonathan Gannon to punch somebody else, It's on the table.
I certainly think to Brendan's point, there's a possibility in your point of a Wu-Tang. Can this game easily become a blowout? Yeah, it easily can. I'm not going to project that myself or predict that right now. I think it's going to be more of a bit of a fight. I see more of kind of a 7-point-ish kind of swing being the real driver here, partially because I think the Cardinals defense is just playing so good. They've gotten guys back that they didn't have last time, like Williams. They're very dynamic nickel back. Maybe one of the best nickel backs in the sport was out in the first game. He's back. Will Johnson, I think, was out in the first game. He's back now.
Yeah.
You've got Walter Nolan helping elongate out the interior of the defensive line, and the line being pretty healthy aside from that. So it feels like to me that's a defense that can kind of challenge you a little bit and make life hard on you. And then Brissett is executing this offense at least a functional level here to put points up on the board. So it just feels like there is a bit of a challenge here. Remembering with the Cardinals that their plus minus differential is better than the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are in first place. Our fourth place team has a better differential, and they've lost their games. Their 5 games this year they've lost have been by a cumulative total of 13 points. They just play in tight games. They don't tend to get blown out. They're a very good team for the most part, despite that record. And that's kind of why I just see this being a little bit tighter. But still, Wu-Tang, I got him as basically a 7-point win myself as it'll stand.
Yeah, for whatever it's worth, apparently Will Johnson was not practicing during the open portion of practice today. So he may have gone backwards. And if he went backwards, I don't think he plays. So
That's
we'll
interesting.
see what happens. And also, Mac Wilson Sr. hasn't practiced this week, so he's probably out. That's their starting inside linebacker.
Big loss for them. He's a very important player for them in the middle, and they don't necessarily have a replacement they can just inject right in there. So, you're down Melton too. So that's very big here. We're talking about Milton, Will Johnson, and Wilson out. Those would be very big losses if it was that much across the board. That would make an impact, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And that would get us Wu-Tang to the double digits at that point. If those guys are out, I would be more double digits if all 3 of those guys are out, because that's a lot. Their cornerback room already is a little bit thin, even before you're losing Max Melton and Will Johnson. You're already down a couple guys from this offseason. So they're going to be going to it'll be Denzel Burke and some dude out there.
They got Garrett Williams back, right? He's their
but he's only nickel back. Yeah, he's the nickel. So outside, and Seattle does so much base, Brendan. So much what we do is with the 2 tight end sets. Williams won't be out there on the 2 tight end sets. So you can kind of with your formations eliminate their best secondary player at times. Part of the problem with having just a nickel specialist that's sort of your best player in that way.
Right.
See what they do. We'll see what they do. Thank you guys for all the donos. Just catching up all on that. Well, we've got a bit of a preview here to do and look at this Cardinal game, as we're well over an hour and 15 minutes in before getting to the preview side of this, Brendan. But if you can, is there anything from this last game with the team that I'm spacing out on all of a sudden?
The Commodes.
The Commodes. Was there anything from this Commander game that maybe we haven't spoken about that you wanted to talk about a little bit coming out of this win that stood out to you?
I mean, there's really not a lot to say other than it felt like almost a perfect game. I mean, they took the foot off the gas a little bit in the second half, of course, but when things actually mattered, they pretty much did whatever they wanted. And I don't think there's really a ton to say. There's not much to criticize about. The worst thing that happened, other than I guess the injuries, was Washington padded their rushing stats at the end of the game in garbage time, and it messed up our run defense stats. So we don't have the number 1 run defense in football anymore. But if that's the worst thing that happens in a game, you're doing really well for yourself. So
Rodriguez looked like the better back for Washington than
I remember liking him in the draft, so that doesn't shock me.
Yeah, me too. I remember liking him quite a bit. And how about that? I don't know what the Washington's doing with the air raid. Maybe it's just the air raid just doesn't know how to run the ball. Inside pitch plays, Brendan. What do you think about those? Inside pitch plays. So you drop back, you pitch to the guy, and rather than go out, he just runs it right up the middle. Didn't seem like it was doing a lot of
that is interesting. That's not the strategy I would employ.
No, it's kind of a
defense.
That's a bit of air raid, man. They don't like to run the ball. What are you gonna do? It's all disjointed. And then they started out that game. It was funny too with these air raid systems. They all run the same, Brendan. Because what did Kingsbury do to start this game out? You got a defense. You want to not let him just pin the ears back. What was it? 6 straight passes that he started out this game before he got back to the run game, and at least once. They just don't want to run. It's so wild how they fit into the cliche so hard. Be it a Grubb, be it a Kingsbury, they do not want to run the ball.
And
it's their religion.
And I mean, maybe it's one thing if you've got McLaurin out there and McCaffrey out there, but you don't. You don't have your receivers. What are you doing here? You've got your running backs. You've got a dual threat quarterback. Lean into that a little bit, at least for one game. It shouldn't be that hard.
Then you get down by 1 million points, and now you're running the ball to bleed out a clock. That's the time you would start to think they'd get pass happy. So that's just why I don't like the air raid, Brendan. No air raids here anytime soon, please. I don't care. I don't want any part of it.
You think Kingsbury's going back to college next year?
No, because probably the Washington defense will take the blame for this as much as anything else. And you've down your quarterback for most of the year now because he's going to be out for the season, and you already had lost him a game so far this year. So that'll probably protect him for another year. on top of Jaden Daniels probably is a good fit for that air raid offense. Like you do need a specific style of quarterback, and he is that specific style of quarterback that can make that system kind of work like they did last year, showing you. But doesn't mean I got confidence in him long term.
They can't fire Dan Quinn, so they can only scapegoat the defense so much.
Yeah, but they're already starting to do that where there's this thing like where the DC was saying something to Dan today, like wanting him to call the plays. And the DC's doing that thing now, Brendan, where they're like, come down to the sideline. You're up in the booth, but we need you down the sideline. And when they're in the sideline, they say, get him back up in the booth. And they're starting to play that game on this a little bit. And you can feel that. And the Commanders defense is going to be pretty hellaciously bad throughout this year. I think they'll first probably go to that side of it and go like, all right, we got you're down, they don't have anybody who can rush the passer. And we'll see. I don't think Kingsbury is going to be long for the NFL world because I just don't think the air raid offense works in the NFL. It just doesn't. Those hash marks are a big deal, and they're a big driver of that offense specifically, in my opinion. And there's no way to get around the fact that they're tighter at the NFL level.
Yeah, you're probably right. I thought we were headed towards some kind of an NFL revolution, but I think the revolution's been put on hold a little bit here.
I think it has as well, my man. I think it's going to take a little bit more time. And if anything, I think we're getting back to more traditional offenses. I think the Shanahan offense is not only one that's de jure and it's being run throughout the league, but I think that this is an offense having a tremendous amount of success in how it can run because there is so much of that under center play action stuff that's so tough on defenses to deal with. Whereas air raid, all the play actions out of shotgun, it's just not as effective. It doesn't do as much to really draw those defenses up. Let's say good time here to thank the sponsor of the show, Brendan. We got to give some love to the sponsor of the show here. And the sponsor of this show is going to be Sleeper. Sleeper is the #1 app running in the game right now. And right now, whether you use my code, NEST or SBN, me and Brendan are having a code off right now. It's not a dance off, it's a code off, folks. And I'm going with Nest. So Nest or use SBN for Brendan. And if you use that code, they will match you up to 100% of your first deposit up to $100. But wait, there's more. Because if you just create a login, don't even use the code, they will give you a free $20 entry right off the rip, right off the top. Here you go. Have a fun with this. So $120 from me and Brendan to you, and you show some love to the channels at the very same time. Sleeper is the #1 sports app rolling in this game. They've got the overs, they've got the unders, they got the daily fantasy, they got the weekly fantasy. You out of your fantasy team right now? Recoup some of that pride, recoup some of your money by getting into fantasy today with this. Of course, me and Brendan kind of have a preference for more of the over-unders. I've got my picks up here right now. I kind of put my early picks together for this, Brendan, with Sam Darnold with more than 1.5 touchdowns. Then I took the Falcons game with Bijan Robinson getting an anytime touchdown, and then Drake London getting over 71.5 yards for the Falcons. Do you like those picks, Brendan?
Yeah, that's looking pretty good to me. I'm a little bit worried about Walker and Charbonnet sniping Darnold a little bit in this game.
Okay,
I will say, but yeah, that Indy Atlanta game should be a shootout. We should be seeing some explosions in that game, so I like those for sure.
Is there any picks, if you look at your Sleeper app real quick, is there any picks from the Seahawks game? It wasn't up earlier when I laid these picks down, but is there any ones that look kind of juicy as far as selections go?
All right, let me jump over to the Seahawks here real quick, assuming they have it. It looks like
it's there.
Do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Let's see here. I might tie the JSN anytime touchdown with the Darnold 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
I feel like JSN gets in the end zone this week. He didn't last week. And he's got to get those touchdown numbers up.
I'm with it. How about Arroyo at over 17.5 receiving yards?
Let me think here. If the corners for Arizona are out, we might target the tight ends less. That would be one thing I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But not a bad idea. I think I like the AJ Barner over 24.5 a little bit more. He plays more.
I'm with it. And then how about Myers at over 2.5 extra points made? 3 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, that feels pretty doable. I like that.
All right, and then we need 1 Cardinal to make sure we can lay the picks down.
Okay, let's go with their starting running back is still Demicardo, right? Like he's
kind of. It's nights, Bam Knight and Ricardo, or they both go back and forth with those 2 guys.
All right. Let's go with let's go with
Night.
Yeah, let's go with the over on Marvin Harrison. I think that the Jacoby Brissett thing has unlocked him a little bit.
Okay. So we got Marvin Harrison will be the pick here. So just for outside of this picks here, our selections would be over a anytime touchdown for Jackson Smith, over a touchdown and a half passing for Darnold, 2.5 extra points made over that, 3 extra points made for Myers today, and then Marvin Harrison over 57.5 yards. Love those picks, Brendan. I think that's pretty good there. Lay this down on mine, put a $5 on that. Why not? But please do, folks, utilize Sleeper today. Terms and conditions do apply. Please see their site for details. But thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring both me and Brendan on the year. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And let's start to turn this over here, if we can, to this upcoming matchup with the Cardinals. Brendan, give me just a sec here. I'm going to be right back. Why don't you start off? We'll start with the Seahawks offensive side. If you can start to maybe give the folks a little bit of some of your initial feelings here on looking at this Seahawks offense against this Cardinal defense and what they've got to do. Give me 1 sec, too. I'll be right back.
All right, no problem. So generally speaking, I think the Shaheed impact is going to be the most interesting element to this game. I do think that he adds something here, especially if Arizona is missing their top 2 corners, which as of right now, it seems like there's a pretty good chance they're going to. Will Johnson and Max Melton, if they're both out, you should be able to attack that corner room and make a lot of good things happen. I will say, though, that JSN, the one half of football all year where he was kind of shut down, was the first half against the Cardinals. So Arizona was able to find a solution to the JSN problem that other defenses have not yet. And I do wonder if we see a return to that. So I'm thinking about that. And I'm also thinking about the fact that the big impact of Rasheed is supposed to be less stacked boxes. So maybe this is the week we really get the run game going with Walker and Charbonnet. So definitely interested to see how Shaheed impacts this game. I'm not convinced it'll be directly, but I do think there will be a big impact. That's the first thing I'm thinking about here.
Yeah, you do wonder eventually where those teams start to drive away from that a bit more often with those stacked boxes and just the simulated pressures and just bringing so much of those guys down around the line of scrimmage. It eventually is going to have to end, and you wonder if Sheed's the week that this might happen. Look at the Cardinal defense on some of their numbers, Brendan. I was surprised defensively on a couple things that stood out to me. In that the Cardinals pressure rates at 22nd in the NFL. The opposition's quarterback is throwing at the 12th fastest rate against them. So maybe some of the lack of the pressure rate, because that's bottom third, which, Brendan, all of the resources they put into this defensive line through the offseason, I don't think that they counted being halfway into the year 22nd in blitz rate. So some of it is a little bit of the time to throw being so quick by the opposition, where they seem to be thinking from the Cardinals, you're playing off coverage, you're playing to depth. This is what the stat would kind of tell me on the surface of it, is that you're playing much more to depth. So we're attacking in the quick passing game and getting the ball out of our quarterback's hand. Maybe some of it's a little bit because you're worried about the Cardinals defense and how they can get after the quarterback. But I thought that was a little bit surprising. For as good as Josh Sweat's been for them, he's been a great addition to them. Calais Campbell's still getting the job done there on the defensive line on that side of it. Maybe they're a little light on the other guys outside of those two, as far as looking for the production, because Ojulari still hasn't come back, their former second-round pick. He's just getting back.
And what is going on with Darius Robinson, man? This guy can't figure it out.
It's not clicking into place, man. He's right now in a place where it's even as a run to, he's supposed to at least be a guy that is a floor. You're going to get a good run defender. You didn't know if the pass rush would develop, but he should be a bully and physical as an edge and set the power edge stuff. Hasn't been that for them. A guy that, looks like Tarzan, kind of plays a little bit like Jane so far here in his pro career. But they definitely are not getting as much from the rest of the bodies around there. Zaven Collins is fine, but it's not getting him a lot of pass rush. It's really just kind of leaning on Sweat, and who had 13 pressures or something last week. So if he's doing that, maybe that's enough. But it's him and Campbell kind of making it go right now from a pass rush, and maybe Walter Nolan can kind of add into that mix too.
How's Dalvin Tomlinson been?
He's okay. He's there to be their run defender, and they're 10th in EPA per rush. So, they're pretty relatively decent there on that side of it. But he's obviously there to kind of fill that one role. They are 8th in blitz rate. So this is a team that is willing to, come at you. And that's where you asked about the stack boxes. This is where a lot of the blitzes come oftentimes off the stack box rate. So they are 13th in stack box rate, kind of middle of the road, a little bit higher on the blitz side of it. So they do have a bit of a natural tendency within them, Brendan, here to be this way, even against teams where it's neutral, as far as the tight splits and the 12 and 13 personnel usage, which we've rolled a lot out. So I would estimate this is probably not going to be the week that this dials back, unless, again, the Shaheed can just create the fear of God in their hearts, and that's enough of a driver on this one to get it done. But it's the way offenses have played this Cardinal defense. You're fifth in average separation per route. So and that's on the good side to the Cardinals. And what that means is that they're very tight in coverage right now. But when you combo some of this up, where you're the 12th fastest team facing them in time to throw, so you're getting the ball tremendously quicker throws. There's going to be tended to be a little bit less separation on those kind of throws. So these kind of add up as to why teams are throwing in a tighter coverage. It's not necessarily the Cardinals are playing tight coverage. It's just that the means by which offenses are going at this Cardinal offense tends to be this: decent stack box rate, decent blitz rate, i.e., okay, we're going to get the ball out of our quarterback's hand quickly to our playmakers in space and let them go work.
Yeah, and that whole coverage thing might be a little bit moot if they don't have Melton or Will Johnson. That's what I think that in large part their defense is built around having those two guys playing well because they're not getting what they wanted out of their front.
Indeed, those are 2 second-round picks that you put the investment into, and that's with you having Williams playing as kind of at least in the last year or two, like a top 3 nickel cornerback in the sport. And the vision was that you have those 2 guys out there rocking. Like you say, they can play tight. You can trust them on an island. You can bring the blitz rate and not worry about that. To your point, I don't know how you would have the same kind of confidence when you're trotting 2 backups out there, and you got one of them is a rookie and one of them is like literally a back end corner on your roster at that point, because Bunting and the other guy went down this offseason to season-ending injuries. So they are very, very deep into this quarterback room before there's any injuries there. It could make a big difference. Could make a really big difference in this game.
Yeah. That kind of makes me throw a lot of things I was thinking out the window, because I think it's going to be really hard to justify stacking the box against this offense if you don't have your top 2 corners. Like, how are you going to leave your backup corners on islands against JSN and Shaheed?
I don't know how. It does to me, and Wilson's also a factor of this too, being out. It only kind of further weakens that down. He's not a corner, but now you're even maybe a little bit more worried about having him back a mile linebacker in space, trying to cover too much or trying to blitz him like you normally would. Now you're leaving all those extra holes. So I expect Cardinals probably will go with a very conservative game plan, Brendan, if they are down this many players, even just these 3 specific at these spots. How can you not see them doing that? And then when it comes to us running the ball, we still have struggled, Brendan, even this last week, to running the ball. Just cannot seem to find much headway. Yes, big part of this is some of the stack boxes and the heavier fronts you're facing. You're just not getting it done as well. Somebody's mentioned earlier that maybe there's some stuff we were able to do a little bit better in this game at times with some of the gap-based stuff. And that was, of course, last year with that second game against the Cardinals on the road. The way you really got after them, there's a lot of the same personnel in that Cardinal defense right now that you would think that, looking back at that last year's tape, that maybe if you're not having as much like zone-wise, working some of that gap stuff. And it does seem to me like with Bradford, who's been kind of it's been struggled with him in running blocking. He does his best stuff, it feels like, pulling back across the formation at times, i.e. to the gap stuff.
Yeah, I could see that. We have tried that a couple times this year, though, and it hasn't worked great. I know there was one game where we did gap about an equal number of times with zone, and it didn't really fix anything. So I do wonder if maybe there's also a thought that it's not it's still not what they are hoping for.
Could be. There's just not a lot of answers right now in the run game as it stands, and not much of a problem when you're passing as well as the Seahawks are passing. But Cardinals are in a bit of a predicament maybe coming into this game on how defensively they're going to play this thing, for how you're set up, because you've got the means to go after them either way they want to go. Light the box. Now our run game starts to go. Tighten the box. Bring the blitz. Now we're going to eat you up on the outside. Be interesting to see how the Cardinals' approach is going to be defensively in this one, as they haven't been too bad against our offense the last couple of years. You ran the ball well last year in that one game, but it wasn't like the offense was just tearing it up. We had the 16 points at home last year that we won 16-6 because the defense really held things down. That was in the rain a little bit, but this is part of why I think this game's going to be a bit tight, is I think this defense, even down a body or two, still has shown a real good resiliency to them to still give you a real tough battle.
The Dallas offense is really good, and Arizona, one of the few teams this year that has really stopped them.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, that Cowboys offense has been incredibly explosive. So putting the brakes on that team like they did and just stepping right down on top of them like they did from the jump in that game is very impressive to me. Any parts of this defense as well that have you standing out as far as notable or to think about coming in this game that we should be aware of?
I was gonna say cornerback because I really am a big Will Johnson guy, but at this point, with all these injuries they've now got piled up there, I don't think so. So not really.
Yeah.
And I know Will Johnson was out there against Dallas, and was Melton, or was he in his concussion?
Milton got the concussion in the Dallas game early on, I think.
Okay.
But
Okay. So
he'll be out of it because the protocol with being a shortened week on a Monday night game doesn't give you
yeah.
enough time for the protocol to come back the next
Yeah,
week.
there's no way he plays in this game, I don't think. You may as well rule him out right now. But honestly, not a lot. It's an okay defense. Gannon's actually doing pretty decent work with them. It's just looks like they're going to be down some of their key players.
It does, and already where you're playing a Hawks, you probably want a couple of those corners at least. You're down Wilson, or down a couple of the corners. At least you got Wilson in there. Those are some very important pivot points positionally on this defense to lose, where you could see how that could kind of cause a little bit of an issue that cascades down defensively for them. It's hard to overcome that. Your two outside corners, especially with now we're rocking the receiver core that we are out there. We can definitely go at your weakness. You got essentially your de facto fifth corner starting out there, and Denzel Burke isn't the best as well. That's a lot of places for Sam to go after as far as feeling like he's got a mismatch on the football field.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it at this point. I was, because in theory, this is like the textbook definition of a trap game. Because we play the Rams next week, right?
100%. Yeah.
So I had my guard up a little bit, but I'm feeling, in theory, great about this offense. I think we can attack them every which way.
I do too. And hopefully them taking it to the Cowboys like they did keeps the eyes open. And you look at some of this from a Seahawks player perspective on it being a trap game, and you're lowering your guard a little bit. You look at this isn't your typical last place team. This is the best division in football. That's not lip service. There's no team in football that's got all four teams of the plus differential, Brendan. I mean, we might be very well seeing with this NFC West right now as it comes to fruition through the rest of this year, one of the best all-time seasons for a division that we've ever seen. I mean, it is pretty impressive what they're doing. So you got to think that that's going to open the players' eyes to this, and they're going to recognize and go, okay, this is a legit game. We got to take it serious. It's division game. These always tend to be tight as well. So we better ramp it up and not, dial this back on this one and give our best so we can set the stage right for that Rams game.
Yeah, very annoying, this division doing what it's doing right now. I don't like it.
I don't either, man. I want the feast factor. I want the two easy peasies every year. You know what I mean? That you just kind of walk through and you can just, it's going to be a win, and you can just ease up and you can rest guys, and not in this division, man. Every time we play, it's going to be an absolute dogfight. Even if you get a team like the Niners that are super weakened, they're 3-0 in the division right now.
Right.
Even though you just can't put a hitch in their giddy up. Well, looking at the Cardinal offense, which we have spoken a little bit to how they've played here with Jacoby Brissett, which is a much different, I think, a little bit in certain ways, in how they're going, much more being willing to be on time, much more of a targeting of the middle of the field. What do you see from this Cardinal offense led by a Jacoby Brissett?
I mean, it's just a little bit different, right? Things are going to be a little bit more on time. Things are going to be a little bit more in rhythm. And it's a little bit more of a traditional offense, which I think is the right thing for this team right now. I don't know if Brissett is a better quarterback than Kyler, but I think he's better for this team as it's built right now. I think he's better for Marvin Harrison. There's a reason why Marvin Harrison had the best game of his career on Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it does bring new challenges. One thing I will say, though, is that last time we played Arizona, their leading rusher was Kyler with like 45 yards or something. So, and they didn't have the running backs in that game. They still don't have the running backs. Trey Benson is out. And of course, James Conner, his career is probably over at this point. But they don't really have anything at running back. So that should be a very one-dimensional team this week. We should completely take that away and force Jacoby Brissett to do all the heavy lifting.
She really should. To your point, in their EPA per play on rushing, they are 24th in the NFL. So not an efficient team running the ball. And big part of that is you've been down your two running backs a good amount this year. Certainly that hurts. I don't think they're necessarily a particularly good run blocking team otherwise. I think that's another part of this. And the part that makes this really hard in the Cardinal offense from a Jacoby Brissett's perspective. On the good side, and part of why I think Jacoby's having the success with Wilson and Harrison out there on the on-time stuff, Cardinals are top 3 in average separation per route in the NFL. So their receivers are creating separation. Now, some of this comes from the standpoint, as I talked about earlier, Brendan, that both Kyler and Jacoby has shown a willingness to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. So like we saw to the inverse of the Seattle side or to the Cardinal offensive opponent side, those opponents were going, we're going to get the ball out of our hand quick. We're going to get it there fast, but the separation won't be as much. You've got the top 3 separation, but you're also, what did I have here? They're like 19th in time to throw in the NFL. So they're bottom 3rd as far as taking a long period of time to throw the ball, giving those guys that time of separation. But the real stat here that stands out to me with them is that number 1, they're facing the 6th lowest blitz rate in the sport. So teams are not blitzing them, but they're allowing the 10th highest pressure rate in the NFL. So teams are getting there without having to blitz. And maybe they're not getting there as fast with them having the time to throw, but some of that's a little bit of the Kyler and escapability and him, extending plays a little bit longer on that side of it. But I just go to that and I go, boy, that's not a great prerequisite for this defense playing us at home. That, okay, you get the separation on the routes, but we don't have to blitz you in order to get pressure. That's right into the bread and butter of our defense and what we want to do anyway, with coming at you with the front 4. I don't know how the Cardinals are going to kind of overcome this, especially because they don't have a running game, Brennan, that they can lean back to keep us, what's the word I'm looking for? Keep us from just kind of loading up on the pass.
Keep us honest.
Maybe? That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Keep us honest. I don't know how they keep us honest on this one. I don't know who's the deep threat we worry about over the top if we want to try to bring down the coverage and tighten things up, especially in the middle of the field.
Yeah, there's not really a lot to be afraid of except for, of course, Harrison and McBride. And like you were talking about with their offensive line not really being totally in place yet. By the way, I think Will Hernandez is on the injury report this week, so we don't know what's going on there. So that would be another blow. He's they're starting right guard, I think. Yeah,
and the right guard, the right side of their offensive line has been miserable.
Who's their right tackle? It's Paris Johnson's left.
It's Kelvin Beachum and another dude, and neither of the two of them are doing particularly well. I think they're trying to rotate through the 2 guys there, but both of them are being kind of garbagey.
Yeah, so again, you look at it on paper, there should be a ton of damage that this team can do. I will note that we don't know about Ernest Jones yet. And I do think you saw this defense take a step back with him off the field. This team is not really equipped to lose Ernest Jones because they're so thin at linebacker. There's reason to believe that he's going to play this week, but we don't know yet. So I'm hopeful, but I do wonder if that changes the game in a noticeable fashion.
Very well could. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if I think Tyrese can give you some decent play there. You're right that you're not getting the same level of what you're getting from Ernest Jones. Even look at their grades between those guys, with Tyrese getting 10 tackles in the game, but still Jones was much better rated for what he did in that game versus the same Washington, crew. This team is in the Cardinals 11th in play action. And I would be telling my team on that to not really, most of the time you're going to have your team really loading up on the run. This might be one week where I'm like, let's load up on the pass a little bit. Let's show that they can really run with these backup running backs with an offensive line that doesn't give much as far as really creating much holes in the run game. I might be willing a little bit more to try to lean, if I'm defensively Mike McDonald, into let's stay with the coverages. Let's get a little bit. That's where our onus is versus a team we might say, hey, it starts with stopping the run, and then we'll get to one dimensional, and then we'll get to stopping the pass. I might just start stopping the pass from the jump here.
Yeah, I do like that. I can't imagine Arizona really puts a lot into trying to run the ball. I think they come into this game with the understanding that, hey, we're down to our 3rd and 4th string running backs. There's not much we can do here. And I believe Demercado is more of a receiving back than anything else anyway. And if he's your top back, then I think you kind of go into that game already planning to move off of the run.
Indeed. I just think this is the way I would lean to, because it's like, even if you give up a decent run to the running back, to me, it's under a different offense, a better running back, a Connor there, a Benson there. Maybe that play goes for 25 yards. Maybe this running back can only get you like a 7 by you doing that. And then the good side of this on the other side is that you're really able to mess them up in their passing attack by putting a little bit of the onus on that side of it. I just wonder on this if that's a little bit of maybe a part of this that's a bit in tow, especially when it comes to this one particular part that has me a little concerned in this game, Brennan. When I go back and think back to that Washington game last year, or the Patriots game that you played against Brissett last year, did a good job being able to go after the things you talked about earlier in the show with him being a bit statuesque, and you can get after him. You can create pressure because he can't move as much back there. But what he was able to do, and what I'm a little worried about in this game, is he spammed the button just as much as he possibly could to targeting Hunter Henry. It was Hunter Henry. Remember that first half? The guy had you closed it out in the second half. You made adjustments. But I am a little worried with a guy like Trey McBride, who's a better tight end and who's the Cardinal team has certainly shown a willingness to spam him as a player, that you're going to see them really working Hunter Henry quite a bit here, because it seems like Jacoby last year was looking at this defense and where to find the inroads, target the tight end.
It is worth noting that in that game, we had Tyrell Dodson and Jerome Baker at linebacker, though.
It's true.
I think you look back at the defense last year for Seattle, the first half of the year, they were one of the worst defenses in football. And I think now we can safely conclude they just didn't have the right players to do what they wanted to do, especially at linebacker. So I do think that that's changed a little bit. I would not be surprised if he spammed the ball to Trey McBride anyway, because Trey McBride is really, really good. But I'm not looking at it as some sort of liability on our end as much as it is just he's a really good player. And, of course, Arizona wants to feature him in their offense.
True enough. Very true. And it's a good point about the prior guys that you had rocking out there during that game. And so maybe a little bit different with who you're able to, especially Drake Thomas, with how well he's playing out there in coverage from the will linebacker position.
I think we had Rashawn Jenkins in that game too, if I recall.
Yeah, I think that is accurate on that one. So we'll see how it goes there with the availability to hold down Trey McBride. Such a good player, seems to always find his targets and touches, no matter who the quarterback is or whatever game. They work him out there. Any other notable parts to this offense for the Cardinals and how you feel like we need to play him? Is this a high blitz rate week? Do you just trust the front four, considering that they are so bad at the pressure? But last year, a lot of times with Jacoby in that game, you did do some sort of stack box blitz stuff too to create the pressures you did do. How do you go about that? Just try to trust the front four, drop everybody in coverage, and think you're going to get home on that, which I could see.
Jacoby's been in the league so long. I don't know if blitzing him is the right move, because he's seen pretty much everything. So I'd be cautious about that for sure.
Yeah, so I can understand that.
I'm more of a try to get pressure with your front four guy right now. I can be moved off of that, but generally speaking, I think that what we're doing with the low blitz rate is working, especially in a game like this where you've got all your edge rushers. It's one thing when you're playing Tampa and two of your edge rushers are out. You probably needed to open it up a little bit there, and you didn't. But I don't know if you need to do that this week.
Good points. I can't push back against any of that. I see it the same way. Trust the front four, drop the 7. That's a little bit too what I'm talking about on the onus and coverage to try and take away the passing attack, is drop more of those bodies back there and really squish down those windows for Jacoby. Show that they can run against your front four at that point, because I don't think they can do it. Especially if they're looking at a backup like Hernandez out there and Evan Brown on Leonard Williams. I mean, Leonard Williams just owns Evan Brown. That's a horrible matchup for the Cardinals. And it's just awful. It doesn't matter whether it's Leonard or Byron Murphy. That's awful for them. Horrible.
Yeah. Didn't Leonard Williams have his best game as a Seahawk against Arizona last year? I think there was one game where.
Yeah. Oh, he was unblockable in that game. And yeah, he destroyed. He was as much the reason for that win as anything else. That's as dominant game as you're going to get from a defensive tackle as what he did last year. That was awesome. Feed Me More Seahawks, thank you for the $2 donation. It says DeMarcus Lawrence with the coldest quote of the season. What do you say?
I'm not sure. I actually don't know.
Oh, okay.
I haven't heard this one.
If you can, feed me, put it down in the comments. I'll read it in the comments. But I hadn't heard the quote as well. So let us know. You don't have to put a donation. Just put it down in the comments. We'll take a look at it and post it up on that one. But I hadn't seen anything on that one. Feed me. Feed me. Thank you for another double donation with another $2 dono. He says, Brendan, how about that Demon Worry play? Nails.
Could be a few different plays you're talking about, actually, with Demon Worry. He's doing stuff pretty much every game. We're definitely ahead of where I thought we would be with him, given that he's a 21-year-old rookie. Like, I was not expecting a ton this year, but he's a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun.
Playing the position like Kyle Hamilton does with the Ravens, and he's bringing a similar kind of impact to what he's doing out there from that spot. I think too, just what stands out with me is just the size of him. He comes up there, and you would expect he's going to be able to defeat those type of blocks. I think he's talking about the bubble screen play. You'd expect that he's able to defeat those type of blocks because he's going to take on a slot that's going to try to block a guy 6'4" and just giving up 25 pounds to the guy, But he just launches that guy back. And then a guy in Deebo Samuel, how many guys have we seen through the years with Deebo Samuel, Brendan, tried to just put an arm tackle on him, and that's not enough. He fights right through that, no problem. And yet one arm, he dumped him on the ground like it was nothing. It's something that Corbin talked about when I was at training camp. We were, you really almost don't get the understanding of the size of this guy unless you're kind of up close to him to really understand, like, might even be bigger than a Cam Chancellor. Not as far as like built wise, but just as far as just size to length kind of ratio on him. And man, he's playing lights out.
Yeah, I love it. And he is making mistakes in some of these games that you would expect from a 21-year-old rookie. So when this stuff gets better, and it will, there's no way he's peaking as a 21-year-old rookie who was only in college for 3 years, by the way. This was a 3-and-done guy.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really excited to see where this goes.
A lot of upside to this kid, Feed Me. A lot of ceiling to him. Perfect fit to this defense too that we're seeing here now. I think part of him being so good and strong at the slot is going to keep him out of safety, Brendan. I think they're going to look at him and be like, he can be way more impactful down there as a slot corner, and sometimes rolling out there at safety. Sometimes he gets will linebacker snaps, but that this is where you're going to put him is really that slot long term because it's just such a pure fit in this defense.
I am kind of leaning that way as well. I do kind of think that's probably the play here. Get him closer to the line of scrimmage. That's probably the play for him.
Especially because once you move him out to strong, he's just not going to be able to take advantage of the blitz stuff he can do, which he's really good as the blitzer too. And I think it's only a matter of time to me. I think Witherspoon or Emanwari gets a sack this week. Both those guys have been very close, and it feels like they're just one of them's due to get back there. Feed Me More Seahawks. Thank you for the $5 donation. He says that Mike Mack clip was wild. Love all the clips that have been coming out, even the Commanders game clip. So many fun stuff going on in the season. So many fun stuff going on. Fun season ahead. Definitely. This has been an enjoyment. Feed Me to watch this year's team really come together. As and Brendan have been covering this team the last couple of years, and it's been a good team, but there's been the ups, the downs. We go one step forward, we go one step back, and we just can't ever seem to quite get that final point of progress made. And this year it feels like progress. The record feels earned. It feels like things are really coming together. And that this team is getting closer and closer to taking this final step to contending status and making some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, it feels different than in any recent year. Like I'd say 2020 was the last year where during the season you felt like something special was building. Of course, it didn't work out that year, but 2020 was the last time it felt like, okay, we're in the middle of the season. This team feels like it can be a Super Bowl team. So it's been a while. Ever since we started doing this show, we haven't really had this kind of energy.
No, we haven't. This has been by far the best team we've put together in my time I have doing this channel in 6 years. And they've got a lot of potential here, this team, to go make some noise. I did see the clip. Did you see that one, Brendan? We kicked their ass. Mike McDonald talking about it. It's pretty cool to see.
I did see that one, yeah.
Yeah, I like it when my coach talking like that. I like that. I want a little bit of bravado from my coach, you know? I want a little bit of like, yeah, we're that team, you know? You got to have that confidence, you know, from your coach in that way. I dug it. Very cool clip. And you're right, a lot of good stuff. There was the Sights and Sounds one too, Brendan, with the players talking stuff to the Commander fans on the sideline.
Yeah, I've seen.
How much you pay for that ticket? That was pretty good. Thank you, Feed Me, for the triple donation from Feed Me. Keon Lund, thank you for the $5 donation. You guys are amazing as ever on the donos. I think we're about 35 deep here on this one so far. How much are we going to miss Jones versus McBride? Our ability to stop tight ends seems like a decade-plus long curse. What's news? What's the news on the Jones injury?
Well, I don't really look at Ernest Jones as being some coverage wizard. I think that we're putting him in good situations where he's not overly exposed. And he is doing good with the drops. I'm not saying he's bad, but I don't look at Ernest Jones as like the Trey McBride stopper. And I'm like, and then I'm sitting here thinking to myself, oh, what are we going to do without Jones against McBride? I don't think Jones is that kind of player. He's if he has a weakness, it is coverage. And to McDonald's credit, he's done a very good job of not exposing him and making him vulnerable to looking bad in coverage very much this year. So I'm not really too worried about that element. I think there are other things with Jones that you're worried about. As for the injury itself, doesn't seem like it was as bad as it looked. Actually seems like we're okay. It looked worse than it ended up being. If he's already practicing, it can't be that bad.
Yeah, it's the injury. If I think too, with the trade deadline coming up, Keon, and a guy like a Logan Wilson going for a 7th rounder, if there was a real worry here with the Mike linebacker position, you would have made a trade at the deadline and given up a day 3 guy to give yourself that same kind of insurance that you're looking to get with your wide receiver core by bringing in a Rasheed Shaheed. You didn't do that. Speaks to the fact you feel pretty good about where that injury is at. I think Brendan's on point with where he's talking about as far as what you ask from Ernest Jones in coverage in this particular defense. You do play a lot of cover 2 in this defense. Cover 2 a lot of times has that middle linebacker moving down the middle of the field between the 2 hash marks and essentially operating from within the 2 hash marks on his spot drop. Less space that he has to then cover. The guy to really pay attention to here, Keon Lund, is going to be Drake Thomas. That's the guy that's going to be matched up on the tight end more than the middle linebacker will be. And Drake Thomas has shown he's a top end coverage linebacker from the will linebacker position. So you should be okay out there and how you deal with McBride and getting around him. Like Brendan spoke about last year when we dealt with Hunter Henry in this Patriots team with Jacoby Brissett, that was a lot of linebackers that weren't as good in coverage, having them try to make it rip and roll. So I think you'll be okay. I don't think that we've had a tight end this year, if I'm not mistaken. Brendan, who's the tight end that's torn us up this year? You're muted.
Sorry. Jake Tongues, I guess, right?
The one catch. I mean, I'm talking tear us up like that was a problem throughout the game where this guy got us over and over.
Yeah, they're really that hasn't been a big issue this year.
No, I don't even think Trey McBride in the last matchup that we faced did much against us in that one either. Might add a couple of catches, but it didn't seem like he went off at like his true normal 8-catch, 9-catch day or something like that. So I think we've cleaned it up in a lot of ways, Keon. It's been cleaned up as much as anything because defense has gotten better on the details, and Drake Thomas's impact as a coverage linebacker out there and what he brings to the table. I mean, Jacksonville didn't throw against you on their tight ends. Schultz went a little bit crazy for you with the Texans, but that was as much because of they spammed that play where they were running the play action back to the other side of the field, and then he would just have a little drag route, and you just sort of forgot about him. It wasn't like he was being covered and your guys getting beat in coverage. It was more of just they got kind of, I think, lucky on that. And then you saw this last week. The Commanders tried the same thing, Brendan, of running that play action stuff to their tight end. We had it cleaned up and covered up this week. We knew that was on the tape last week. They covered it up. So I think it has gotten better, Keon. We've had prime problems in the past with tight ends, but this year I think it's been a lot more improved.
Yeah, it's a pretty good. I think that it's more than just any one player as well. I don't feel like it's because we have some incredible cover linebacker that we're good at covering tight ends. I think it's more of an overall schematic thing that we're doing really well. Yeah,
because it's times where it's Drake. It's times where it's going to be the slot slot corner like an Imanwari when he's out there. It's going to be Derek Kendrick at times. So it's been everybody contributing to this, but I think it has definitely been improved this year, Keon.
Mm-hmm.
Addis the Gamer, thank you for the $5 donation, Addis. Is Seattle's swag back yet? The clip where the clip where the defense was telling Commander fans to go home in the first quarter was golden. Go Hawks. Go Hawks, Addis.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was great to see the confidence in the D going at the fans at that like that. I think you could feel a little bit of that spirit and energy. And watching that, I don't know if you felt the same way and watching that sort of behind the sights and sounds, but you felt the energy there from that defense as they were kind of passing through before the game. You know, like you could get I'm not trying to say you get a feel for what the way the day is going to go based on the energy of the defense, but they definitely felt like they were in their mode. They were ready to sort of, get after it. They knew they were on prime time. They knew it turned up. They know you're getting healthier. You're getting better. Feels like this defense has a sense of understanding what's at stake here for a potentiality. And I felt this way even going back to the offseason with the full participation in the non-mandatory offseason program. And you got everybody showing up. I think that this team has understood through this whole process what it would take if they want to get to truly being a contender, and they've embraced that. Doesn't guarantee you get to contender status, but that the energy's been right, the intention's been right, and that even the vets, you see them doing everything they can to make sure they're ready to roll in this.
Yeah, everything's kind of falling into place and making sense. Like you've got the right, like even something like a Cooper Kupp, where maybe he's not doing a ton on the field, but it does feel like his impact on JSN's game has been really valuable.
Mm-hmm. And Horns too.
Yeah, and DeMarcus Lawrence has been really good on the field, but it feels like there's something he's providing a little more abstract off the field that is also really, really important.
Agreed.
So, you look at stuff like that, and it does feel different compared to the teams we've been rooting for really about a decade now. And those teams had players like that. Those teams were good, but it does feel a little bit different right now.
There was definitely a missing swag, a missing confidence. Something the Legion of Boom team had, of course, is that they were great and they were going to let you know they were great. And that there's maybe a little bit when you're missing that confidence and you're not quite playing at that same kind of swagged level, that you're not getting your top end. And that especially for a defense, you want them playing violent, loose, free, You want him playing like just getting after it. And you get that vibe from this defense, man. You really do on what they're bringing to the table. And it's a prerequisite if you're going to be a great defense, I would say.
I can't think of a great defense that didn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Even going back to 85 Bears had that, right? Ravens certainly had that. Tampa Bay had that. You got to have it if you want to be that D. And, you can't fake it. You can't just have the confidence, but you don't have the talent. That ain't going to work. Player, that's not the same thing. Green 80, thank you for the $7 Canadian. Appreciate you for that, Green 80 over on Brendan's side. Barring a Super Bowl win this season, do you think John Schneider will send it to acquire Crosby? Go BNB, go Hawks. Thank you, Green. Appreciate you.
I mean, if anything, winning the Super Bowl makes it more likely you send it to acquire Crosby because your picks are worse, right? You're more willing to give them up in a trade. So I don't think winning a Super Bowl is I don't think that's the barrier between trading for Crosby. I think you trade for Crosby if you think it helps your team. And that could be true regardless of how far you make it in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Brendan on this one. I think John's also a general manager that's benefited and given a unique circumstance here in Seattle that has helped him as being a general manager, being that the commitment from ownership is there. He knows that he's not on the edge of a hot seat, so he's got to be very careful with moves, and he can't take a big swing move because if it blows up in his face, he's going to end up fired. I think that too, he's looked at the situation and why you were so aggressive on Crosby at this trade deadline was not just merely about where the pass rush is right now, but where it's due to head in the next couple of years. You lose Mafia this offseason. You have one more year of club control with Derek Hall. Uchenna Nwosu may or may not be here another year. If he's here another year, it's only going to be here for one more year. DeMarcus Lawrence I think DeMarcus Lawrence is going to do enough to earn his way here for another season, but how many more years does he have? Is that just another 1 year thing? Could you be at a point where you're looking at very feasibly going through 2026 and none of the 4 edges we have right now on our roster are part of those 4 edges going into 2027? So this is also a bit of a looking at this with a long-term, sure, it's a go for it move and to give you more impact now, but it's sort of both. It gives you the go for it now and impact now, but it also gives you hey, we got a thing coming down the line that we're going to have to deal with one way or the other. And Brendan, do any of us really want to move off these 3 guys to go to some young pass rushers that we have to go through the same ups and downs sort of stuff we've gone through with Hall and Mafe and may or may not get there to them reaching that difference-making state, or go for more of the known quantity?
I think that latter path makes sense for this team right now. I think that the picks are only going to do you so good. Now, if you have to give up a first in 2027, that does hurt because that's supposed to be a very good draft. Everyone's hyping it up. But, that's how people feel right now. They may not feel that way in a year. Maybe that draft class falls apart a little bit as well.
Yeah. Well, and to Green 80's point on this, if they're winning a Super Bowl, you feel great about your roster at that point, right? So the points of your roster you might worry about having to address with those draft picks you have to give up for a Crosby, you don't feel as much that you do because you're all lock, stock, and barrel and good to go. You feel great about things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so we still think it's in play regardless. There, Green 80, and I think you're gonna be one of those teams to be very aggressive after that one. Keon Land says, "What are you expecting to see from Rasheed this week?"
He knows the offense, so there's no reason to hold him back, right?
I think to a degree. I mean, there's a little bit of the chemistry continuity thing with Darnold, and do you like? I think a 15 snap thing with him this week is kind of probably what you're going to run with him.
Yeah, I could see a little bit more than that. It also depends on how the game goes. Like if you get on top of Arizona quickly, you might take it easy. But if the game's close, maybe you need him out there.
Yeah, I definitely think you'll see a little bit of him, but that'd be the part I'd wonder about is just, got to get back in the offense. Just came back this week. I think he'll get up to speed fast, but I think you'll see much more of the target usage really ramp up over the next couple of weeks from this one necessarily, Keon. But you never know. Like Brendan said, he does have the familiarity. So there is always the potential that Clint's just he knows it. Send him out there. Hard to kind of say on that one exactly which way they'll be leaning. I would think you tend to see these kind of moves that you're going to be first game, you give them a little bit of a controlled snap count. Then by game 2, 3, you're more getting a little bit more willing to go loose and free with it. And it is kind of a rental move. So you're looking to maximize the rental aspect of that part, probably too.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe with a guy like him, you don't worry so much about even knowing the offense because you could just send him on go routes and he's a big threat that way as well. He can just send him down the field at top speed a couple times, and it forces the defense to adjust.
I think Feed Me here says HGL. I said when it's dark outside because I like to turn the light. See if I can find Feed Me's deal here. I know you did another don't know. I just want to see if you may put it.
I think that was the right comment.
Okay, that was the one I just highlighted?
Yeah, I think so.
Like it when it's dark outside because I like to turn the lights out. The offense, he said, I like it when it's dark outside because I like to turn the lights out on the offense. And now the rest of you are going to feel what it's like to be on the dark side.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
It's pretty good, man. That is a hell of a good quote there, Feed Me. I dig that, man. And thank you for the $2 donations. As the quotes in the comments for Tang. Got that one. That's awesome, man. If he just came up with that on the fly, that's pretty poetic there, Feed Me.
Mm-hmm.
Not too shabby. Thanks for the quote there, man. That'd get me hyped up as a defense. Yeah. Turn the lights out. It's called the Death Zone. SZSZ Koken has been celebrating a month on my side. Thank you for that, Koken, as a member. Says, going to try to watch both game streams. Anyway, which starters are becoming free agents this offseason? Keep up the great work, Brandon and Brendan. Well, thank you so much, Koken. I appreciate that. And appreciate you watching both on game day. Just get us synced on up. Free agents offensively speaking this offseason.
Ken Walker.
Kenneth Walker.
Let's see here. You've got no, not either of them. It would be them. It would be Mafe is a starter, I think. I know it's a rotation, but I think he starts.
Yeah, I think you include him in there. Let's include Mafe in there.
Woolen. And Kobe.
Job.
And
then we got Bradford, I believe, as well as a free agent, isn't he? Or has he got one more year left?
I think he's got 1 year left. I think Bradford has 1 year left. Drake Thomas might be a free agent. I don't know what deal he's on with us, but I think he is a free agent.
It does look like that's the case. So yeah, they do have Bradford on there, and you're right on that. So no Drake for 26. Bradford is on there, so we still have him under contract for 26. And then Sundell will still be under contract at that point, I believe.
Yes, he'll be in his third year.
So
and yeah, Kobe is a free agent.
Kobe's a free agent.
I think that might be it. Yeah, Barner's got 2 years left after this. JSN's got the 4th year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're good at that point because Cross has the 5th year option.
That's right. That's it. A lot of free agents here coming up this year. Yeah, you're pretty set there, Koken. So a couple of guys and maybe Mafe and Woolen, if he especially really comes along. Job will be maybe a hurt because you're definitely gonna have to go find some corner help after this offseason for sure. But not too bad. Especially if this team can come off of really having a great year and making some noise in the playoffs. You feel pretty good about setting the stage there for the future on that one and be able to take it even further in your additions versus subtractions and sort of like, get half a dozen pulled off and you add a 6 on and you're sort of in the same sort of place that you should be able to add on top and keep stacking after this year when it comes to losses on that side of it. But thank you, Koken. Appreciate your support, man, and being a member of the channel. And it's a good time to get to the prediction side of this, Brendan, as we cross our 2-hour mark here on the show. If you guys can for me, please hit the like button, sub up either on the Hawks Nest or Seahawks Brendan's side, Seahawks Brendan Nelson's side, either one you're watching from. Please hit the like, sub up on the other. But let's get to the bottom line. I think, again, we've seen a lot in alignment today, Brendan, on this team and where it's going and what's even this upcoming game in a certain ways. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised we might be pretty close here on our outlook up for a projection of a score. The 12s want a blowout, Brendan, but I don't think either of us see a quite blowout.
Yeah, I'll stick with 27-20. I don't feel the blowout. Maybe it's close because Arizona scores a late touchdown when the game's already kind of over. But I think they'll keep it kind of close. I'll go 27-20.
I feel the same way on this one where I feel like it is going to be that kind of 7-point win. I go 25-17, so I'll give us an 8-point win on this one. But I think we do enough offensively. I think defensively holding down, they're going to get drive here, drive there, because I think Brissett is a better QB than what you get from Kyler. But not quite enough when it's all said and done. We're just playing too good. We've got too good, strong of a team from a health-wise standpoint, and we're able to kind of carry the day at the end. But we're going to have to earn it, folks. They're going to make you sweat a little bit this week, I think, than we have through a lot of this year. We've had a lot of comfortable wins. In fact, probably more comfortable wins this year than we've had in a couple of years where everything seemed to be tight for a few years there if we were going to win. It was always going to come down to kind of the line in the end, and not been the way that this year. It's been fun to watch some of these games, Brendan, getting up on them so healthy. I mean, this game felt like it was done in the first half. The Commanders, to me, I felt like after you got that field goal, it was toast, right? Once Myers hit that last one.
Yeah, they weren't coming back from 28-0. I don't think even then it was like they don't have Terry McLaurin, they don't have Luke McCaffrey. What are they going to do? How are they going to score 29 points?
Yeah, it was hard to say, but good, and it shows you how good this team is coming together, Brendan. You can be dominant and get up on teams, and it's not as close a measure between you and other teams, that you seem to kind of be lapping some of these teams, and that you're that much better of a roster, that much better coaching, that much more prepared to go and actually make some noise. Yeah. One more dono here from Keon Lund, who's been so kind with a couple donos today. Thank you for that, Keon. I appreciate all of that support. Says, did you see the stat? The Seahawks are the best DVOA offense since the 2007 Patriots. The other teams since 1978 are the 85 Bears and 91 Redskins. Wow, the Bears were that good offensively?
I know that DVOA loves the 85 Bears. I didn't know they love their offense.
Yeah, I didn't know they love their offense either on that side of it. And, what's interesting with those DVOA teams that we're presenting to be the 85 Bears and the Redskins, these are not high volume passing attacks, even for their age. The Bears were known for being a run heavy team during a run heavy era. But they weren't one of their, that was an era where you had the Dolphins too with Marino willing to throw, right?
Dave Craig aired it out in Seattle during that era, right?
Ground knocks, man.
And not that 1 year when Kurt Warner went down. Like Dave Craig was throwing it around. What was that? Was that 84 or 85?
That would have been the 84. And that was the 1 year. But if you look through the rest of those years, you were first. I mean, Chuck was just famous for seeing he'd be so predictable with running first down, running second down, and then he would throw if he didn't get enough yards on first and second down. And that was kind of your modus operandi for years with Chuck. I mean, that's why he had that nickname, Brendan, of Ground Knocks, or Ground Chuck, whatever, I forget what it is. But he had that nickname specifically because of that he was just so heavy in running it. But does show you with those teams. Patriots were a little more pass heavy at 07. I think that was that the Randy Moss year there, 07?
Yeah, that was Randy Moss. Yeah. That was Dante Stallworth.
Yeah, that was definitely a pass heavy team. But I know the 91 Redskins was a three-headed rushing attack that had really good quarterback play, and your Art Monks and some good receivers out there too. But that wasn't necessarily one that was a team that was trying to necessarily pass every which way with loose. I think it's that you have teams that are all three of those teams, if you say, well, what's the thing they have as a commonality between them? You'd say that they were all very efficient passing attacks when they threw the ball. Patriots threw at a higher volume level, but that 85 Bears had Willie Gault, and they could, with Jim McMahon there, they could let it rip, I think the 91 Bears had local Washingtonian Mark Rippon, former WSU guy, that was the guy slinging it in that offense.
Well, you know what the greatest DVOA defense of all time is, right?
Is it the Hawks?
No, it's the 1991 Eagles, who did not make the playoffs. That was Reggie White. They had Eric, the guy who ended up working for ESPN.
Joyner.
Joyner. They had like 7 Hall of Famers on that defense.
Yeah, they had the one guy Cortez once honored. His teammate from Miami was in there kicking ass, taking names. But they had a front four from hell, and that was an insane front four that they ran out. And Buddy Ryan's defense was crazy.
Imagine having a defense that good and not even making the playoffs. That's brutal.
Same defense we're running, by the way. Fun fact. Mm-hmm. That's the Buddy Ryan defense, back to the origins. And interesting with the DVOA on that, you mentioned them, 85 Bears, also a Buddy Ryan defense, also our defense we're running.
Right. And, I thought it was the Colts offense that was like historically good this year. Like there's this one stat that says they're the best offense this century. Mm-hmm. Maybe not after the Steelers game, but there was a point where that Colts offense was on pace to like shatter every record.
Yeah, they've been tremendous. And another team like us where they've got a lot of guys to throw to. I mean, they were able to just offload Adonai Mitchell and not even blink at all, because they've got Alex Pierce playing well, and they of course have got Pittman playing great, and then Warren's been the truth as a tight end there. And you run the ball as much as they do, it's like they were like, yeah, we're fine, we'll give them up, who cares, sure. So it's good offense, man. Very, very, very good offense out there in what they bring. But I love that stat, Keon. Thank you for that, man. And DVOA tends to be a pretty good measure. Of course, with our Seahawks Legion of Boom teams, we're 4 straight years the number one defensive DVOA team during that run. You went to 2 Super Bowls on that at that time. So it's one that is an advanced stat tracker, Brendan, that's like, okay, it's a nerd stat, but it's also one that has tended to carry some weight about the true value of your team, that your record is not this just outlier where you kind of lucked into the record, but that there's base fundamentals which speak to how good your team actually is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I love DVOA. I've loved it for 15 years.
Did you see the thing with them that they posted with the likely Super Bowl participants? And they did like, here's our order of the two teams we see facing each other right now. Did you see that they released out?
I don't think I've seen that for this year. I've seen it in previous years.
They just released it out. So right now they have as the highest odds to go to the Super Bowl and face each other. How about this for a Super Bowl, Brendan? Buffalo, Seattle.
I'm not buying that Buffalo team. That defense is fraudulent, but it'd be a lot of fun. It would be.
Yeah, I don't know if I can see how a team with that bad defensively is going to be able to get it done in the playoffs, especially because they've just lost Ed Oliver. Might be the most important defensive player on that defense for what he brings. And then they always seem to have so many injuries around that to the other side. I can't understand as well with the Bills. You know, a move like this with Rasheed Shaheed. How is you as a Bills team do not go at New Orleans and just give them the 3rd round pick and come over the top of what we're offering?
Yeah, they're sticking to the Packers model. Just never get out of the pocket. Just, stay chill. Just keep your picks. Just keep on staying in the middle and hope one year it breaks for you.
And I just think that that's so silly for them as they're right now in the Super Bowl window, which will close. Drake May's getting better. That Patriots team's coming along. Your time to strike here is now. That you don't go do that. Look at last year. Remember Amari Cooper and what a crap trade that was, where they had the need for a receiver even then. They didn't address it in the offseason. Now you're not addressing it again as it is an absolute need. And it's like, well, yeah, we'll just have Josh Allen to play superhero for us. I don't get that. I don't get that that's the way you go on this. I think that this is this, like you say, it's the Packer way. It's a way that has led the Packers time and again, Brendan, in recent years under Aaron Rodgers, especially, of getting right up to the line, but never able to quite push past that line. Always getting right up to the spot, but you can always feel that you're missing a little bit extra to push you over. And I don't get why the Bills, were so reticent on this one, especially a Rasheed one where you can validate your fan base why you do want to do the rental. You don't have a lot of cap space, but he's only going to cost you a couple $1 million. So you can afford to do it through the rest of the year. And you can't tell me that wouldn't help out a Bills offense where Josh Allen with his big time arm would be able to take advantage.
Yeah, I don't get the approach there. There's an argument to be made. They should have fired McDermott after last season and just given, Joe Brady, the head coaching job. But they seem pretty content with being the 2nd or 3rd best team in the conference every year.
They do indeed at that. They do indeed that. Keon Lund, thank you for another $2 donation with some clarification. Sorry, total DVOA, not offensive DVOA, but total DVOA. My bad. But that makes a little more sense because I was sitting there with the Bears going, well, that was a good offense, but I don't know if it was like a hyper, super, just, best offense we've seen in years. So, okay, that does make sense.
Wasn't Walter Payton past his prime that year too? Like he wasn't the old Walter Payton.
No. He had reached that point where he had been a lot of seasons of years where he was the only guy and too many touches and eventually wearing down a little bit. So he was definitely starting to get to that point where still a good player, but not necessarily vintage sweetness of what he had been. So good stat. Love it. And certainly can see how our team right now with where we're at DVOA wise should get to that spot. We have one of the best special teams unit in the sport, and offense and defense is humming at a hyper efficient level. That's the pathway to getting there. And like Brendan said, he likes DVOA. I like DVOA. They've got us predicted as the highest likelihood team to get to the Super Bowl along with the Bills right now. I think they ran like 3 scenarios, and like one was them, and then one was like the Bills and the Rams, and then one was us and then somebody else as well in the Super Bowl. In addition to that, like us and the Colts or something was like the 3rd likeliest odds. So they like us a lot. They like where we're heading right now, and they're believers in it. And last time they were believers in us, Brendan, we went to back-to-back Super Bowls. So let's hope history repeats itself on this one.
I like it.
All right, well, thank you, Keon, and all of you guys. We had so many donos today. Appreciate all of that support. You guys are amazing on both of our channels as ever. Really, it is very, very much appreciated. Many of you just double donut, tripling, quadruple donating over. Thank you so much for all of that support to our channels. And all you guys doing, watching and checking us out on both of our ends of it is very, very much appreciated. You got both me and Brendan will be live streaming this game on Sunday, a very important game, Brendan. We've got to take care of business here. Keep this ball rolling. If at any reason, just because this is the speed of the NFC West, you want to stay with the big dogs. You got a hope of winning this division. You got a hope of maybe zeroing in on that bye week down the line. Then you better take advantage in the games that you can take advantage. The winnable games better be won, because there's going to be some tough games coming down the line of the season. 2 games against the Rams, a game against the Colts, a game against the Niners, the zombie Niners that just won't die at the end of the season. So take care where you can take care to me for an opponent that you should be able to, if not dominate, get a fairly easy win out here in this one. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. You're going to have to earn it. It's a division game. These always tend to be tight, Brendan. But keep it going, man. That's all I got to say for this upcoming week. Any final thoughts for you?
No, that all sounds good to me, man. Let's get this win, and let's not fall into the trap here, because this Rams team that is looming. I know your mind cannot help but be pulled towards that game.
Yeah.
But just take care of things before you get there.
1 week at a time. It's part of the thing I always liked about Coach Carroll with the championship opportunity stuff. And it sounded like just kind of coach speak, but I think it was him specifically trying to get around maybe that draw human nature wise to sometimes look ahead, especially as you're good, and especially as you're overlooking an opponent that you don't think is going to be as good. Every week's a championship opportunity. Every week you got to lock in and fully. Any team on any given Sunday can take you down. So hopefully Seattle keeps that momentum and keeps it going. Nice to face the Cardinals too here, Brendan, with one less day that they get to operate, having to come out on the road, right? You had to go out to the Cowboys. You got to come back home. You got to come up to us, and you get one less day to prepare for us. I like that part of it too.
Yeah, that's an underrated element here. The two straight opponents on short week, because Washington was as well.
Mm-hmm. And they felt it too, didn't they? I mean, they did not feel we were the rested coming off a bye, and that was when you really could feel what the impact that can bring the NFL. And even one game, don't discount that. One day, I should say, don't discount that, folks, is that we're this deep into the season. One day can make a lot of differences. I've heard so many NFL players talk about needing every one of their days that they get between games to prepare their body to be ready to go for the next week. You're getting in a car crash every week. It's hard to just bounce back on a quicker schedule to get that body right.
Right. I like it.
Well, thank you again for watching today, folks. Brendan, great time as ever here doing this with you. Look forward here next week to hopefully continue to celebrate what has been a wonderful season for us to be able to cover and watch with you guys, as there are so many cool parts to this team that are just coming forward and are interesting and are also making us all dream big to the potentiality of this team once again getting back to the mountaintop and being able to make that major noise like they did 10 years ago. It's just going to be fun to watch this play out as we get now through the back half of the schedule to see if they can bring this big baby home and get us a championship one more time. We will be back soon. We're going to be both live streaming play-by-play this weekend, so check us out both. Check us out both at the same time. But until next time, please, folks, don't you ever forget. Certainly shouldn't have to remind you right now, with the first place team with 6 of 7 wins, with 10 straight road wins, with, dare I say, Brendan, 2, not a 1, but 2 MVP candidates. Me and Brendan are going to do so anyway. Don't you ever forget. Don't you dare do it. You better be thinking, dreaming big, dream huge. Never forget. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.